Hello and welcome back to Off Track Podcast with me, Dave Neal. Earlier this week, we sat down with GR Motorsport's Chloe Jones to find out all about her 2025 season in the Women's WCR Championship. Well, this time, it's the turn of the boss. It's the G of GR Motorsport, Brent Gladwin. We sat down with Brent at Stauff HQ in Sheffield to find out more about his early career, with stories that range from raw emotion to full-on belly laughs. He's such a great character, and I can't wait to bring you this chat. Before we do, as always, please make sure you like and subscribe. Every single one we get helps the show grow, and the more the show grows, the more guests we can bring you. It's as simple as that. In the description below, we have the YouTube membership. If you want to join and get early access to the shows, that's down in the description below, the same as our Patreon page and the merchandise as well, which we're going to be working on in the new year for something just a little bit different. Anyway, that's enough from me. Let's get on with it. This is the brilliant Brent Gladwin. Enjoy. Welcome back to Stauff in Sheffield. What a great place to do a podcast. Thanks to Ian and the staff at Stauff for letting us use their recording studio. More importantly, welcome GR Motorsport, Brent Gladwin. Brent, good to see you.
Hi Dave. Well, it's nice to be here at Stauff UK. It's 29 years we've owned GR Motorsport, and we've spent 11 years of his life hanging around Stauff. They've been with us that long, and I feel that Stauff UK's headquarters is kind of a second home because it's where we keep all his trucks and spares and some bikes, and as you've seen today, it's a fantastic facility.
Super facility, and it coming from a manufacturing background to walk around. This is not an advert for Stauff. This is genuine. Coming from a manufacturing background and seeing how they have their processes and the cleanliness, coming from a print background, this is like night and day. And a beautiful background and backdrop to your hometown as well. There's Sheffield in the background.
Sheffield.
As I said on the chat with Chloe, beautiful downtown Bramall Lane over there. So we'll just leave that there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's exactly where we should leave it as well.
This is taken from top of the train station?
Yeah, above the train station as you come over the top down towards Granville Road.
Almost from the flats, isn't it? That way on.
Yeah, so that's the old train station.
The old station, and the waterfalls and the old music and the recording studios, Def Leppard's places. And
the history of Sheffield, even though I know I'm quarried here, it is home. It's got a great history of motorsport, some great motorsport people, not just motorcyclists, but motorcyclists like Billy Nelson, a forgotten name of the 60s, and a pathfinder in a lot of ways, and of course poor old Justin Wilson in the car world, Strawberry Racing in the go-kart world, it's and then little old GR Motorsport tucked away in a corner. So
for the best part of 30 years.
Flipping heck.
Getting on that, if not more. I mean, I think a lot of people maybe don't realise it. They see you in the paddock. The GR Motorsport has been a massive name in the British Superbike paddock for more years than probably you care to remember at this point. But you raced prior to setting the team up.
Yes.
So
it depends how you look at things.
you pedalled a bit.
Yes.
Before. Tell us about that, where you got. So before we get onto the team and what we've got coming up over the next sort of 12 months and look back at the team history, let's talk about you. Where did it all start for you?
Flipping heck. Well, as anybody who knows me knows that motorcycling is seriously a passion. My little collection of motorcycles are bound with passion. It's not really a collection, it's more that I don't want to sell anything. And I've still got...
That's the Yorkshire in you.
Yeah, I suppose it is. I don't mind a deal. I'm always on the phone having a real hoot with Whitty and James Whitterman. You can imagine the pair of us two. We've both got a bit of a pact in a lot of ways that when we kick the bucket, there's a little letter saying to our family. If you speak to Brent about these values, and if you speak to Jamie about these values, but on mine he just says at bottom, just check it when he tells you. So the passion is unquestioned, even for me. I'm sat at home looking at a particularly nice motorcycle in the lounge, which Claire's just chucked out for the Christmas tree. Where did it start? A long time ago. And it started at school, of all things, because I don't know where I came from. Obviously, Sheffield in the old days was a very hard town. You know, the stainless steel invented here. And where I came from, not so far from here, it was tough. Great, but tough. And created a lot of lifelong friends, motorcycling and not. People I went to school with, Jamie Reeves, world's strongest man, and, you know, so, you're flipping odd actor or two that might be beanified, you know. These were all the guys who came from where we are. And so we had a weird work ethic that if you couldn't earn it, you'd steal it, you know, that kind of thing. And we all, you know, I'm old enough that I passed the 11 plus, God knows how, and ended up going to a grammar school where I didn't want to be there and they didn't want me there for sure. But we had school classroom sizes similar to now, you know, kind of late 20s, early 30s. And as we headed towards 16, it was the era of the FS1E. And, you know, a lot of our parents used motorcycles for work, you know, the Steelworks and things, the old BSAs and the early Hondas and early Yamahas. And of course, back then, you know, cars were out of reach for a lot of people. Flipping it, I can remember when we got our first colour television. Party lines on the telephone. And escaping was all about a bus ride.
Yeah.
But of course, the FS1E, Honda SS50, Pirelli Tiger, Fantique Caballero, you know, these things are dreams now. Yeah. And sadly, I do have one or two. And of my class, I reckon 20 of them had mopeds. And we zoomed everywhere. When I got my first moped back, I jumped on it, went up the road, and late 40s, I jumped on it, and now it was like a kid again. And I was thrashing up the road, and I thought to myself, how the hell did you do 10,000 miles on one of these? You must have been glued to it.
Gonna be.
And of course, what that did, all that freedom and going to Castleton and Lincoln and going to Cadwell Park and just crazy things. 40 of us going down the M1, line abreast, swerving into each other with crash bars and things like that. There were no traffic.
No.
And of course, out of those 20, 30 guys, half of them, 12 of them became lifelong motorcyclists. And that passion with all those guys at different levels, they'll hear a motorcycle and go, oh, you know, and that is where my passion comes from. Yeah. Obviously, as you go from your moped era, the next thing is what's the next biggest bike you can get. And of course, back then the licensing laws weren't like they are now.
No.
Flipping heck, now, 17-year-old, you pass your test in the car and get a blooming Veyron and nip down the road at 200 mile an hour. And the government are that clever that if you want a motorcycle which doesn't take up the space, doesn't do the emissions, and you've got to be 25.
Yeah. And do 3 different tests for the privilege.
Exactly. So we had the wonderful experience of learning all about riding on the roads, tree lights, street lights. We didn't have potholes back then, but
the roads were fresh back then.
We didn't have many cars on the road, although my first accident, I hit a Austin A40 slap bang in the middle of the side where they turned across in front of me. I went over the top of it, knocked myself out with an open face helmet. And when I woke up, I was face down in the gravel and I thought, oh my God, I'm dead. And there was some woman going, do you want a cup of tea, lad? And of course, we got the bigger bikes, and I think it'd be reasonable to say that was a bit of a tearaway. There's other not politically correct ways of describing me back then. The local copper definitely had hold of me tab hole a few times. And And we got bigger bikes and went faster. And had a great time. Great bunch of friends. Did everything on the bikes. And then it came to an abrupt end. And that abrupt end was a young gentleman who wasn't that young called Judge James Pickles, the hanging judge and the controversial judge at the time. But he took pity on society and banned me off the road. And
How long was the initial ban?
well,
And what did you do?
what did I do? Oh, flipping heck. If we took the highway code and basically
Disregarded it completely. That's what you're trying to say.
well, my dad always said, even though we came from where we came from, he said, if you ever do well, son, surround yourself with the right people. Clearly, you need a good doctor. He said, and if you get to a certain point, you need a good solicitor and a good accountant, which, my little team, who we, it's time for Christmas beer and that, great people. And I'm not naming, but I had numerous misjudgments. 113 or 30, 15 or 30.
Just pedal back. 130 to 30.
Yeah, there was nothing on the road.
And misjudgment in the same sentence. I love that.
Yeah, well, the
They're just having fun.
the misjudgment was I was going to the chip shop and I didn't put the brakes on. So I went past it and had to come back. That was the misjudgment. And we had traffic lights at red, and obviously then they throw at you driving without due care and attention. And
So the highway code was just a guide then, more than anything. It wasn't actually the rules of the road.
it was a bit like the Ladybird book of what you might want to do if you were somebody. I think it was Motorcycling for Idiots was the highway code. And of course, you've always got to remember that back then when we took our motorcycling test, there was an idiot. And he was the examiner who was stupid enough to step out in front of you and go. We didn't hit him. But anyway. Anyway, all of these things, the offences, in truth, I shouldn't be on the road today. But my delightful legal person, commonly known as a brief,
It is at that level.
yeah, he fought to bring all the charges to court on one day. And so I got banned for each and every alleged offence. But because he brought it together on one day, they ran concurrent, which means I was banned off the road for 12 months.
Impressive.
Pretty impressive.
Beautifully done.
And in allegedly, Your Honour, I might not have adhered to that.
I wasn't going to ask that, so I'm pleased you threw.
Allegedly, Your Honour.
It could be told.
And of course, when you've had it is like having the heart ripped out of you. Today people get banned for all sorts of things, and a lot of it quite rightly. But having your freedom removed, and two things it made you do. One, get on the back of somebody else.
Oh.
Nah. What with my mates? Nah. And two, get back on the bus. So somebody mentioned we'd watch racing, and I went to a thing back then. They had race schools, Chris Wilshaw Racing.
Wow.
And I went to Alton Park, and we did the short circuit. And then my last bike, as I got banned, was actually a Honda 404 with a Yoshimura 460 kit in it. And we'd axoed the exhaust up and come up round the side and took all the gubbins out of it. And it sounded like a Laverda Jota when you shut it off, quite good. But I entered a club race at Cadwell Park, and back then the club racing scene was incredible. You could, on a bank holiday weekend, Easter bank holiday, you could race at Cadwell on Friday. Then you could nip to Snetterton and do Saturday and Sunday, and then back to Darley Moor on Monday. So it was dead easy to get your license. But of course, at that time, I kind of got a new profession, which was forgery. So I was. It was. I when I was at school, I actually genuinely had my own little art display at Mapping Art Gallery in Sheffield, where I did pencil drawings, and I quite like pencils, and and I still do today.
You like a good HB or a 2HB?
Yeah, and it was quite funny. Saw old Stan Mellish's signature SM. It was so there were a load of guys kept coming up to me and saying I didn't make it, but and so the club racing scene was mega. But I went to Cadwell and then to the production race, and the production racing back then was for the class. Was start the mechanical way.
Yeah.
But of course, 404 had a button. So I pressed the button, the start button, and took off, while everybody else with their LCs were still kicking away.
Kicking away and bumping, and away you go.
And by the time they got to us with my big orange jacket on, I won it. So that was the addiction started. And it was funny, I was showing Chloe a few pictures of black and... Remember, back then, it's that long ago, they only took black and white photographs. And that's what started it. And then...
What's this, mid-70s? Late 70s?
Yeah, mid-70s. We left school in 75 and I enjoyed the summer of 76.
Long, hot summer of 76.
Oh, it's only just been topped, hasn't it, a couple of years ago?
Global warming.
Yeah, global.
Let's not go down there.
Flipping and global warming. Have you noticed we've got the heater on in here? And once the racing started, then the club scene was mega, and then all of a sudden, what happened to me over my local friends was the expansion of my friends' net, if you like.
Of course, yes.
And then I was never at home, and all my mates were going at local pub, and we still go to local pub on a Friday night from home, and we just started doing crazy things, and I think the craziness really happened when I heard about Oliver's Mount, and I said, "Yeah, I fancy a bit of that," and all the boys went, "Are you bonkers?" And I went to Oliver's Mount, met a lifelong friend, Phil Meller, who was clearly bonkers. Anybody who knew Phil, obviously when you first see him, a bit daunting. What a superstar, really real, just, and he showed me around, and then we did a good job. And of course that led to this road racing bit's all right, because I got £25 in a cheque.
So, getting paid for getting race winnings. That's the start of something.
What's really bad from a Yorkshireman's point of view, I never cashed it and I've still got it.
No.
I have, honestly.
I mean, that's kind of nice in a way, because that's the start of everything that came after it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really nice thing to have, because it would have been so easy to cash it and take the money and go, look at this, boys, let's go to the pub. But actually, no, this is my first one. We'll keep this.
And it wasn't really a plan, because back then I didn't collect anything, because the next job was, how do we get to the next race? We'd allegedly got the keys to the local dustbin wagon depot. And at night, those trucks leaked diesel all over the floor. So if you were quite nifty with you could mop it up and squirt it into a can. And
that's how it worked, is it?
Yeah, honestly, it was. And of course, we were doing them a favour.
Really absorbent cloths there, isn't there?
And we were doing them a favour by keeping it all clean, and
It's a bit like Ron Haslam when he started, and it was the gas board. Well, the gas board bands were lighter around Langley Mill. The days gone by.
And we really, I mean, racing back then was actually more expensive than it is today in real terms.
Yeah.
When you start comparing the pound to the pound.
Of course.
And for a reasonable example, just jumping ahead a little bit, in 1981, you could buy a house, a terraced house at Woodseats Road in Sheffield for 1,500 quid. I bought my mum a house out of my prize money for £500 for a whole house. And to put that into perspective, an RG 500 Mark 7 was £17,500 plus that.
Okay.
So if you look at the average house now in Sheffield, it's probably £250,000.
Thereabouts, yeah.
So multiply, and so it was. But
Jesus.
back then, because they were selling loads of motorcycles,
Yeah.
and therefore loads of chains and brake pads and helmets, then the industry was mega.
Yeah.
So there was money. And so you'd, like today, we have brilliant corporate sponsors like Stauff and not so many motorcycle sponsors. But back then, Yamaha or Honda or Dunlop or, Reynolds chain and Ferodo brake pads just over the hill. And so we had this pool of slush fund that they would help you. Yeah. I remember crashing at Darley Moor and Mr. Fowler of Fowler's, Sasha Fowler's granddad, just came up and just reached his pocket and goes, there's some money, but you've got to spend it at my shop, and to help us fix things.
Yeah.
And so that, in reality, started the, should we go to that track? And should we go to that track? And it was that fun. That's how I met DK, the world famous. When he started, he had a big afro haircut, and now he's bald and he's got an afro beard. So we turned him upside down somehow. And he's been around us 40 odd years, 40, too long. And we got in a van with a map and went. And your mum didn't have a clue. There was none of this iPhone and tracker and all of this stuff. It was, you disappeared. We had flipping party lines in the house on the telephone. You pick the phone up and the neighbour was
on it, so you had to wait for them to finish before you could carry on.
And we just flipping disappeared. And we went to places that were incredible because we can't even speak English, no mind Dutch, and some of these tracks, they're still there, and they formed part of what I did, and they gave us a shilling, and we couldn't really afford to race at the British Championship things, although I remember at Cadwell Park at the Manor House down the bottom where the pit lane, all the riders queuing up to see Chaz Wilkins
to giving the envelopes out.
You've not done so well this weekend, lad, I'm not giving you that much, and one day the couple of us said, listen, if you don't pay us now, we're going to mug you on the way back from the gate, that kind of thing. And we really did take off in a transit van. I bought a transit van at my mum's new house that I got her, and it wasn't like today. We got this transit, and it were a bit rough. And outside the house, we got Nitromore, stripped it, and painted with dual lux paint.
That thing out.
So we did some brilliant things. Brilliant things. And
no harm to anybody.
I won't say that. We did have a laugh. And we met people like Jeff Crost and Steve Dowie, and it was just and the kind of lifelong friends. And so that is the passion of why the hell I'm here now. And honestly, I wouldn't mind falling over, banging my head, and waking up going, motorbike, what are you on about, Dave? Shut up, idiot. I'd love it. And Mark Lever definitely loved it.
She'd be well impressed with that. Have a normal life.
So we went through that, and I did well out of it.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't a Mackenzie or a Jamie Whittam or whatever, but I did know how to do a deal. So I wasn't so bad on the other side of it, money side of it, and then it kind of came to an abrupt end in the early 90s, and that abrupt end was quite easy. I didn't spend enough time at school, so I had no idea what Isaac Newton discovered, so I fell off. That was it. And I ended up in quite a pickle, really. Laid in a bed, couldn't move from the neck down for a few weeks. How was that? Darley Moor, of all places, dicking around on Tony's Triumph. This left arm was repositioned, as in not on there, over there. And yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. So we've experienced both sides of the job. And I understand my own thought process at that time. So which is why when, you know, Tom had the crashes he had earlier this year, I was in the med centre waiting for him to make sure he was okay, and before his family could get him there, and I wanted to evaluate the things, and of course there was nothing wrong with him, you know, bloody tossing it off late on the tarmac, smashing my bikes to bits. The Stauff bike I might add, yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. And so that kind of finished the job. But I'd met Tony Robinson in the mid 80s, and that was another strange meeting. I'd have never met Tony other than through racing. So the R of GR, Gladwin Robinson, and Andy Bateson, another one of my mates. He's Danny Sport Leathers, and he runs a bit of. He's got a nice little classic team with TZ 350s and all sorts of things, and they have a great fun racing in that CMRC or whatever you call it, championship. But he had an RG 500 and put it up for sale, and some guy in Derby wanted to buy it. And Andy asked if we could borrow the van, and we took it down, and there's this fella, Tony Robinson, who owned a company, Robinsons of Derby, that was his dad's, and he took it over, and they made biscuit machinery. So fishermen's friends are made on machines that Tony supplied. And he was telling us about his bikes, another man full of passion for bikes. And he got his collection together and that's when I understood, hang on a minute, a bit of a clue here, kid. And he said he was looking for these bikes, and I said, well, hang on a minute, I know where your old bike is. The Steve Manship one. No, you don't. I said, yeah, I do. And he says, well, if you want to get it to me, I'll give you a shilling or two. And I said, well, yeah, but what's a shilling or two? And the deal was dead easy. If I found me my bike, I got 500 quid. Well, I knew where the bikes were. Oh dear.
A step ahead of the game.
He needed a big shed. and we, I found him the bikes, Son of Slug that Chris Wilson's got at the minute. I think it's Chris Wilson. No, it might have gone to one of the other ones in the Amicabilla Speed. But I bought that off Steve Parrish. It was hung up, and that's how I met Steve Parrish. Next minute I'm buying bits and pieces off Steve. And so Tony sponsored me through the period, the mid-80s, when I was also sponsored by Spondon Engineering, and I was making my own chassis with Bob and Stuart, and I actually spent more time in there cutting and ticking. I couldn't weld, they welded. Why would I make a mess of that when they were just artists?
Exactly.
And we did a great job with it. We had a Yamaha FZ engine. and it was funny. We were at the Isle of Man, and Colin Arms was the ACU representative, and there was some interaction where I'd rode this bike and just kept changing the numbers instead of the engines and things. And then it came to the point where I didn't want to ride the other engine, so we went to ride this bike, and he twigged and said, "You couldn't, we haven't scrutineered or something, you've not done enough laps on that. And so you can't race." Well, what we got to do? He said, "We either change the engine or you're not racing." So my brother, myself, and DK went right, and we shot off down the bottom of the pits, and there was a fabled cattery down there.
Okay.
And we went and parked the van down there, hid it round the bushes, sat in the van, and laughed and giggled. And then we got out of the van, lifted the bonnet of the van, rubbed the engine, got shit all over his hands, went in the back of the van, covered the bike with fingerprints, and went back up, and Colin Arm bought it. So,
Up here for thinking, down there for dancing.
I don't know if it will. Just this thing was.
This could be asked to swap the engine.
Exactly.
We're not doing that.
And that was when we did have to swap the engine. DK, so funny because I've still got it. I said, "We're going to have to run this in. You're volunteering." So he took the thing out and got a speeding ticket, which I've still got.
And you've still got the speeding ticket as well.
And so the times, as you can tell, they were great.
Exactly.
And then we knew Klaus Klein before he lost his life, and flipping Smotty Robinson, and Joey, and Robert, and Dave Woolhams, Andy McGladdery, all these people from all over the place who were bonkers.
Yeah.
And we did the World F1 Championship, and we didn't have any money, so we did everything possible to do. I mean, the one the one that everybody loved was the fact we raced in Villarreal in Portugal.
Yeah.
And then we drove all the way to bloody Kuvula in Finland. And Matthias Rosé is what Villarreal in Portugal is famous for.
Okay.
The lovely little glasses, that
round bottle.
rosé, fizzy wine. And it was about 50p a bottle. But if you bought a vanful, you could get it for 20p a bottle. Now, in Finland, where the taxes were horrendous, that same bottle was about 10 quid. So there was all these trucks, the old Mercedes 610s and Ivecos, and all trundling up the motorways with its arse on the floor. There were no bikes in there. We'd left the bikes there. The bikes were irrelevant. And we were trundling up, and then Ray Hutchinson. And honestly, Ray Hutchinson, I could tell you a story about him, but we couldn't film it. And Ray Hutchinson now, Ray loved the more voluptuous shaped lady.
Okay.
And he's found his vocation because he teaches salsa dancing.
Excellent.
Nowadays.
That'll do.
Helps him with his target. Anyway, we ran out of diesel, and we pulled in this service station, and none of us had got any money, because he was the one that had run out, and we were like waiting to get to the town because you had to go to the bank and all that nonsense. Anyway, he found this truck driver who filled his van up for 2 bottles of... So, of course, that was the next deal. And we were travelling around Europe like that. And when I got in a bit later, but the Finnish guys, they knew we were coming, so it was like Billy Smart Circus turning. They were all forming orderly queues because obviously up there in the winter it's flipping dark. It's 24 hours of the day, so they need something.
They need something to keep them occupied.
So we did all sorts of nuts things, and some of the stories, we were trundling. We left Misano, where we'd chased Virginio Ferrari around and had a great time, and we went up through up towards Vienna to head towards Hungaroring.
Yeah.
And we were the first people to go to the Hungaroring. But we went to a campsite in Vienna where they didn't really like the look of us. And we all needed a shower. And of course, DK was the last one in the shower. So I assisted. If we'd have been filming like we do now, it would have gone viral. Because we were in this posh campsite and DK was running around the campsite with a bar of soap covering his nuts because I'd stolen his clothes and he was shouting, "Bastards, bastards." And then we went to Hungary. There was some great stories there. And it was this group of people. Me and my brother blew the toilets up at Hungary. Because you had to. Because it was
it's just the done thing.
Well, it's a hill, concrete hill like this.
Yeah.
With steps up it. And with grass on the outside. And at the top was the stalls. And the stalls were traps with a tin toilet in it and a lid and a smell that was horrific. So we thought, what a good idea. Molotov cocktail down the loo.
Do them a favour.
It makes sense. Yeah. Except the loo roofs were like this. We opened the door. We'd practiced. We opened the door, Molotov cocktail, into the loo, run down the hill towards the paddock. Everybody in the paddock, Roger Marshall, flipping Paul Hidden. That weekend is when I met Christian Hidden, who promptly pooped on my shoe. Dad, I want to go to the toilet. Next minute, his trousers were down and pooping at the side of us. I did remind him of that.
Excellent. I will next time I see it.
Run down the hill, and we hear this noise. All right, whoa, we might have gone a bit too far here. Boom. But it didn't go boom. It went... And all this Richard III came blasting up the toilets, hit the roof that was chamfered, and came chasing us like full spray as we were running off. And the first one to get clogged at the back of the head was my brother and DK. Oh. Poor old Richard III, he attacked on the back of the head. So, but it was great fun because, you know, it was bloody good fun. And
it's what we're not allowed to do these days, isn't it?
Well,
but fun's fun. It was of its time, but it was the fun to be had is what it's like I said to Chloe earlier on. You're the sum of the people that you meet over the years.
Oh, unbelievably true. But we had fun. Today, the corporate world is a massively important part of what we do.
Of course.
And the reason it's important is because of the demographic that is a motorcyclist.
Yeah.
And though that demographic is the group that buy our partners' products.
Yes.
But you've still got to tick the P's and Q's department. Whereas when you were sponsored by the local Yamaha shop, he didn't give a shit. He just wanted to see the trophy on his shelf.
Yes.
And
name on the bike, trophy on the shelf. Thanks very much.
And you know, so they were. I could go on about this all flipping day. You know, we did all sorts of things. You know, Isle of Man, what a great place. Considered moving there on numerous occasions.
I wasn't going to skip over the Isle of Man and the Manx and things like that. I've got my notes. Don't worry, we'll come.
Well, we'll come back to that. But the reason I wasn't allowed to move there is somebody contacted James Pickles and he suggested.
Probably not a good idea. Keep him in Sheffield. We can keep an eye on him there.
Just let me check my nose. Nope.
We're going to have to bring an extradition treaty to get you to come back.
And honestly, you know, Gary Whitfield, his wife calls him the Whitfield child, and he's the head gamekeeper at Alnwick Castle. And we met Gary. He bought in the 1999. He bought off me Carl Harris Senior's GSXR 600. And took it away and something went wrong with it. We went and fixed it. And then he's still got the bike. So 20 years later, he keeps mumping on about warranties and things like that. But of course, he's a gamekeeper.
Yeah.
So from the hard end of Sheffield, I've had the luxury of going up there and wearing short trousers and funny socks and shooting. And, just wonderful.
Why have I got only fools and horses in my head when Del Boy goes to
Honestly, they got that off me. The difference was, and this is correct, where Del Boy pulled it off the hip, which I can do, but it's not something we did. When I did the turning round, I just said, "Oh, sorry guys, I'm not used to this. The last time I used one of these, it was a little bit shorter, and I was in the post office." It's like COVID times, isn't it? When we all started wearing masks, and I went into the post office, I was used to them putting their hands up, and now they were saying, "Have you come for your pension, you old gimmer?" It's like, it's just the bonkersness of what we did.
Yeah.
In comparison, was why I'm so passionate about what we do. And from where I came from to where I am, when we moved to the team, it's why I've always opened that door. But we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
You got some other notes there. I bambled on. What else were you?
I got plenty of notes on here, but I'm as much as the listeners and the viewers.
You're not crying.
Not yet. There's time for that, mate. Don't you worry. It's just fascinating to listen to the backstory because it's what makes you who you are. And I'm a massive fan of that for anybody.
Yeah.
Because this is how we've ended up in this room at Stauff in Sheffield. And I said this to Mark Lloyd yesterday, to Michael Rutter on Monday. Yeah. That kind of thing fascinates me because the older you get, the less time you've got. The faster we were. Spike Edwards said that. The older I get, the faster I think I am.
Yeah, well, here's one for you. This will make you giggle then. So I still hold the lap record at Metzeler from 1990. And in each year, it's in the programme. They would, I keep going, you've spelt my name wrong here. Which means one of the following three things. 1, I was fast. 2, the timekeepers were drunk. Or 3, they've changed the track.
Stick to the first.
Yeah, well, but we won some proper money.
Yeah.
I remember going to Donington Park, Stuart Higgs, if you're listening, and we were racing around for 9th and 10th place for £10,000. Pretty impressive, really.
That's proper money.
Yeah.
At any stage of racing, that's proper money.
Yeah, but they were selling a lot of bikes.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it's well documented how the bus industry is going now.
Today.
Yeah, with the way manufacturers and bike shops are going at the moment, it's a completely different world. Tell me about the Isle of Man. Tell me about your love for that, going over to do the Manx and how that, because Oliver's Mount is one thing, TT is something completely different.
The Isle of Man, holy flipping bloody, I nearly said some other things then. The Isle of Man. Wow. I have a serious passion for that place, but I ain't taking any bikes there. I'm not putting a rider on the bike there. We did it twice. The love of the Isle of Man starts with the bow strip. It really does. When you've been outside of Douglas Harbour for 2 days on a boat that's called itself Cork, because it's bobbing up and down that violently, and the sea is that hideous that the boat can't even get a run up to get in the thing, you know what kind of trouble you can be in. We used to the steam packet company, flipping heck. I once booked on that ferry with the old 71. I've still got a photograph of I had a transit van, a double legger transit van that was blue with a white stripe and a green back end. We were quite trendy back then, and this transit van had 2 seats and a wooden thing and at the top, the piece of wood I bought didn't actually go all the way to the roof. I couldn't measure properly in them days. So as we drove away, people could jump over the top and hide in the back of the van. We once got 14 people on the Isle of Man steam packet ferry. Impressive. They were, I'm not being rude here. I'm trying to
Okay.
find something for you that
No
will
problem.
make you flipping laugh, or I hope it will, about trend setting. That there could, oh dear, DK, that's your speeding ticket.
Oh, and there it is. That's incredible. Still dated 3rd of June 1988.
So that's his speeding ticket. That's the citation and notification of prosecution.
Wow.
And much more importantly,
What was he doing?
160 miles an hour. I questioned how they'd actually managed to get to that.
Yeah.
But it was the thing I was looking for was some crazy pictures of it. But so it started with the boat, which was brilliant. Once you'd been sick on the boat, the other thing that it introduced you to was Ockles Ales and Castletown Ales. Now, the good thing or the bad thing with those things is weaning yourself onto them and weaning yourself off them. Because when you'd been to Isle of Man, on the numerous occasions that you were on there you go. That's what I mean by we were a bit trendsetters. Look at that.
New sponsors again, stickers, everything
exactly.
there. For the audio listeners, it's a beautiful orange sticker, and you might be able, I'll be able to zoom in on that on the camera. With the outline, it's Brent Gladwin Racing, the sponsors underneath it, right from the early days.
Right from there. And so you got on the ferry, you went, you got off the ferry at the other side, and anybody of late who's never been and arrives for the first time, and it was just wonderful. And you arrived there, and the local coppers took the piss out of you instead of chasing you, and and that thing, the Isle of Man, Mona's Isle, and we got there, and the first thing we had to do was go to the ferry bridge, and we're all, you're having a laugh, aren't you? And we all went to Ferry Bridge, and of course a couple of us looked over the top and saw all that money and thought, we'll be back later. Hide under the bridge. We are the troll of the bridge. And I went there because I wanted to do the big track, which round here we've got wonderful roads. The road between here and Chapel Henley Frith is just like the veranda. Through Castleton and over the top, it's just like the veranda. And I know because I tried a TZ500 along there. And we went there, and we instantly met these bonkers people. George Peach, the man's off his nuts. And he's run the Southern 100 since I went.
Yeah.
And we stayed at his house. And this were unheard of, to go and somebody say, hey, I stay here, kid. My house is like flipping Heartbreak Hotel at the minute, the amount of people stay there. Chloe stayed there last night. And they grew tomatoes. Well, I love tomatoes, so we used to go and nip with tomatoes and have a fight with them. And his wife Sue, and we got into the Castletown thing, and the first time at the Southern 100, me and oh God, what's his name? Somebody Norman Burgess.
So Silkaleen Norm.
Silkaleen Norm. Well, that, as daft as he is now, he was dafter then because he raced a sidecar.
Cool.
And he was there the first time, and I was there the first time, and we both won the first time. But I'd got a better accolade because I entered Miss Southern 100, shaved my legs, and I should have won it, but they didn't think it was the right thing. and we did it. We set fire to the shipping and started the biggest beer fights, and the track was dangerous. We lost a dear friend of mine, Steve Taylor from Chesterfield there. I was right on his ass when it happened with me and Phil McCallan, and a gust of wind grabbed Steve. It missed Phil McCallan, missed me, grabbed him and threw him over the wall. And So we've lost friends there, but it's still a great place, and it honed us to be able to do the big track. But while I was there, I met a bit of a rock star called Frank Fox, who was from Sheffield, Stocksbridge in Sheffield. He'd ended up over there, and he actually travelled the GP circus in the 50s on Manx Note. And his son Sean, I still speak to them now. They're still there. They've never. It's like flipping. What do you call that island where Napoleon was? You know, it's like that kind of, you can't get it. You can't get off. And also I met a particularly nice young fella called Jeff Duke.
Indeed.
And they, when we decided to do the Manx in 83, they took me under their wing. I'm not sure who was leading who. I don't know if you've ever rode around there. It's not quite easy to link it all together. There's 37 miles just in case.
You did 37 miles, 240 odd corners.
Exactly.
Take some learning.
And we did none of this. Let's go and look at the data. Get out of here. You know, let's find out where the manhole covers is. That's the most important bit. And so they, when I knew I wanted to do it, they started to say, well, you know, you've got to do due diligence. A bit like learning to be a taxi driver in London. It's the knowledge.
The knowledge, absolutely
knowledge.
right, yeah.
And the poor old transit van, you know, I think we blew the crappy paint off it. And we learnt the track in a weird way. But when it came to entering the Manx, I'd done what I needed to do at Scarborough, these road circuits. I bought a TZ 500 Yamaha, and I bought it off a bloke with an helicopter called Barry Sheen by another guy called Chris Bourne, and that thing was mega, and I still own it, with the flies and everything. And anyway, there were certain parts of the track I couldn't get them to link together. I had Pete Wild's dad, Derek Wild, Sir Charles, as my mechanic, with Whacker as he was known, and Hedgehog. You know, it's that old thing. If we like you, we give you a nickname. I'm not telling you yours.
Just the fact I've got one will do.
And I just couldn't do it. And I garaged at the bottom of Braille on the right with Robert Dunlop, who we became lifelong friends. And he got some brother that was kind of interfering with what we were doing, you know. And he'd come in and go, Brent, and we'd all go, what did he say? My brother would say, fucked if I know. You know,
second interview in succession. Sat with Pup Lloyd yesterday, and Pup did exactly the same impression of him.
Yeah.
I just looked at him and went, do that again.
Hey, I'm gonna. In a minute, you're gonna ask me about the Ulster and how I managed to save a moment. But we shared the garage with them.
You're right.
And we kept getting in the car with Joey, but we got on really well with them because I wasn't ignorant, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
And people were coming to garage. I thought they were coming to see me. And we
Fame going before you.
Oh God, we got in the car. And,
The Brent Gladwin.
we got in the car and Joey were driving and Robert were in the front of the and me and Whack and Derek were back and going, what the fuck is that? Fucking that. And we get out at car and we walk backwards and forwards and then I come back and go, did you hear anything like that? Yeah? What do you say? Don't know. And it went on for lap after lap and we were back down there in the morning working on the bike. And anyway, back to our friends Jeff and Frank. Well, if you can't string it together, we suggest that we mark the trees in a way that you can remember them. But that was a great year because you you put your bikes in Milcrease Motors. You weren't allowed to touch them. We were a bit pedantic, to be honest. And all these old gimmers telling you how it was. Manx known used to leak oil. Well, this is a two-stroke, it don't. And that year was unbelievable. Now, I finished second in the 500. Robert won the 350, beating some nugget called Steve Islop. And the list of the greats that had the first year then, and Mez came over, and it was also the reason I stopped going to the Isle of Man. And it was also the reason that I won't take my bikes there. And we were, as it came towards race day, I still couldn't get certain bits. Quite difficult, you know. I once set up to turn left at the end of where the zoo is, and that's not a right good idea.
No.
Anyway, we got in the car with Mez, and with three other, who I'm not going to name, but there were 5 of us in the car, and we drove along, and Mez was such a dear friend. For my 25th birthday, we were at the Montgomery Hotel in Sheffield, and 6 of us got into his underpants, including Mez, which was not a good sight. And we sat on bar stools and raced him across the dance floor, hooching along. And he was useless, so he grabbed his stool, ran, threw it, dived on it, and crashed into us and beat us to the line. That's how mental he was. Splinters in his bums and all sorts. Just, but we arrived at Ballig Bridge, and anyway, we got out of the car, walked along, and he went, yeah, Dorrans, everybody does this, you don't want to do that, don't do this, don't do that. Remember, there were 2 or 3 other guys with me, and we this is the first time I spoke about these. Yeah, we walked through Dorrans and up and round, and we came back, and don't do that, don't do this, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And I love this corner, and just such a wonderful experience to have somebody. And we got in the car, and we set off, and he says, you don't want to crash here, hit that concrete post and it'll kill you. And there were 3 other guys with us, and what the hell? And that's what stopped me. That's what stopped it. Because obviously that's what he did. And so, yeah, strange times, brilliant times. I had my own key to the nurse's home.
Right. Bed for the night?
Well, I was seeing this nurse there, and we were shinning up the drain pipe. And one day, because there was a maitre d' at the bottom, and anyway, one day I got the key, and I kept that key for about 5 years. So, yeah.
It's the highs and lows of that place. I don't have anywhere near the experience of going. I can't say that I've been going for 20 years. I haven't. The first time I went was 2022. I lie completely. The first time I worked it for the full 2 weeks was 2022. The first time I went was 2018. The night we lost Dan Neal. That was my first experience of the team. I'd followed it for years. I'd watched V4 Victory and the Hizzy videos and Foggy and DJ. Love the history of the place, but to go, that was the first experience of it. And I know that Whit never went back, did he, after that? Because he was Mez's teammate at the time, and it affected him in a similar way. And I have such an affinity to the people who do it, but my God, it scares the shit out of me.
It's not scary, Dave.
What am I feeling? I don't know what I'm feeling.
It's not scary.
I love it, but I fear for it in equal measure. I can't work out the second bit.
That day was horrendous. I'd learnt quite quickly. Again, I was very good at the deal, the money.
Yes.
And I'd learned that if I did the whole of practice week and then the TT Formula One race and then went home, I actually made money. But if I stayed the rest of the week, I spent it.
Yeah.
So I'd gone home. And that time there wasn't the social media, there wasn't the television coverage, but Tom Tom drums have never changed.
No.
And in that race, in that front group, was all my friends. So Whitty, Steve Henshaw, bloody Mick Seward, Mez, and they were bang at it. And they would bang at it. And they were laughing and giggling and doing, you know, they always say that if you take a great concept and give it to some blokes, they can turn it into shit in about 10 seconds, can't they? You know, and especially if where there's adrenaline involved or just something nuts. And that half a lap, which wasn't even half a lap, from Dorrans to where Witt fell off, weren't half a lap. But, you know, the history...
It went fall just after Ginger Hall?
No, just on Quarry, just before...
Oh, before?
Yeah, just before the beginning of Sulby fell.
Okay.
But they'd already lost Mez.
Yes.
Although Mez wasn't instant. You know, they did get him away. But then going into Quarry, Whitty went down and Mick Seward shut off or whatever. Then him and Steve Henshaw came together and Steve sadly lost his life instantly. And Mick Seward, terrible injuries. And, you know, there's some things that Mick had said, and he's worth a podcast because that kid, makes me look tame. And because he's still doing bonkers things. And it was, you know, weird things, weird. Mez and Steve started racing on the same day in the same race at the same track. And they finished on the same day in the same race and the same track. And, you know, and Val, Steve's missus, you know, today she still supports racing and all of that stuff. You know, so difficult for them. And that side of it is difficult. Now, there is a humorous side to that crash. And the humorous side was that I'd been turned down for the TT Formula One race at Assen. And I now knew that Mick Seward wasn't going. So I got my mate, Fred, who had a light airplane, to fly me over there. And when Mick came round, I was sat outside of his bed eating his grapes and nicked his ride off him, sign here. So every cloud. And so it's... But we did the World Championships there. And the bit I didn't like, which a lot of riders didn't like, was the fact that if you wanted to be a world champion, they kind of made you go there, which were dangerous.
Yeah.
And I was, like a few others, vocal about that little thing. But without the TT Formula 1, TT Formula 2, TT Formula 3 World Championships, the event would have surely died. Then.
Yes.
Move on to now, it's a challenge. Anybody who goes there, and in Sheffield, there's Richard Kupke is the managing director of Casting Technologies. If you want your nuts recreating in titanium, they'll cast them for you. But he sponsored Dan Ingram from Nottingham, who's just won the Manx.
Yeah.
And so there's a challenge. In 2003, when DJ got killed, which was horrific. And as you know, the first guys, McGuinness and Farquhar were there, and if it hadn't been for them two, Jim Moody would have been in a different place than he is today.
Very much so. But
I had Radio 5 Live contact me as a bit of a, because they knew I were a bit vocal, and obviously as we're learning, I don't shut them up.
Great for a pub.
And they, there was all sorts of accusations about DJ's crash, and part and parcel of it was that they were typical of anything. They were trying to get the TT shut down, but they weren't trying to get it shut down for the right reasons. They were coming out with stuff that should be addressed.
Yeah.
Marshals, this, that, or the other, and anyway, I listened to what this guy had got to say, but I'd listened earlier to the conversation in 2003. It was 50 years, the anniversary of Edmund Hillary and Sir Pretensin.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Boys own, let's climb Mount Everest. Yay! Now, 100 years of racing motorbikes around Isle of Man, we have very sadly lost some superstars and some very ordinary people, all through passion, and we're riding. Nobody forced them.
No. For the love of it. And
I believe at the moment, I don't know the number, Dave, before I say this, but in reality, I think it's about 500.
It's like 216, I think.
Is it?
Something like that.
Well, that's wonderful news, because I thought it were more.
Yeah.
Well, from my understanding, in 2003, there was 2,800 bodies still on mountain. So I quite aptly, not being controversial, I said, yeah, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I agree with you. Let's ban the TT. We're going to ban the TT the minute you put a net round that mountain to stop the pricks who fall off. And I got cut off. And there's even a dead body halfway up there that they rubbed their head.
Yes, it's a good look thing, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's difficult, but then you look at the characters, and you look at the challenge that those guys do to climb Mount Everest. There's nothing. I'm not belittling it.
No.
But they've got to get there, and they've got to walk up an hill with a sack on the back, and they've got to have a team behind them, and they've got to have the right food and shoes and blah. Hang on a minute. Motorbikes, you've got to have the right food, the right shoes, you've got to have the right leathers. You've got to have somebody who fixes your bike that's doing 200 mile an hour, and they've got to work for sometimes a fortnight with no sleep, and the challenges are incredible.
It only starts with the rider.
It's the rest of it.
The challenges come with it all the way through the team, organisers, everybody, marshals, the whole lot.
Flipping, it's unreal that them marshals are still volunteers, and the Isle of Man, it's a profitable exercise. They ain't doing it.
I know what
there's a great old Yorkshire saying, nobody does out for now, and but you asked me a question, and the answer is no. I don't want to face that with my bikes. And we did run Jim Moody, and we did run Johnny Barton, and it was the most harrowing. Every 20 minutes, sat there going. Chloe asked me earlier, do I ever get nervous? Flipping heck. That's not on your list. All them guys who are doing it now, what professionals. Just incredible. Incredible. And of course now Davey Todd's joined the aliens, hasn't he? And those 4 aliens, they are bonkers. You've done podcasts with them.
I have. All 4 of them.
But they...
Oh, sorry, not Michael. The only one I haven't got to is
they're
Michael.
all bonkers, but they're not nutters.
It's a controlled bonkers.
They are the boffin, aren't they?
Yeah.
They are the Barnes Wallace inventing the bouncing bomb.
They know exactly what they're doing, how they're doing it, and what they need to make it happen.
Exactly.
It's none of it's by the skin of the teeth or the seat of their pants. Everything they do is considered.
And so therefore...
To a point.
Absolutely brilliant. But I can't. I just can't.
Why did you take a team there in the first place? After what had gone on previously that we spoke about, and thank you for sharing. Why did you go back?
At that time, so GR Motorsport, we don't sell things. We sell advertising and spunk the money on bikes. That's what we do.
Perfect.
But we don't sell motorcycle parts. We don't tune for other people.
No, you own a dyno?
No.
There you go.
No. And if I did, it would only be for Martin.
Exactly.
And Frank Raffle Jr. keeps trying to sell me one. And I would have one, trust me. It'd be great in here, wouldn't it?
This is how we do it.
Poor old Ian Stansby's filming studio down at Stauff's history. These big burn marks on his fingers.
Exhaust unit coming out the top. It's only soundproof.
Actually, brilliant. What a good point. So, but we've always promoted the sponsors.
Yes.
And back then, the start of the team, which again we'll touch on, we were Tony Scott Racing. And so I was promoting Tony's business of tuning. And we were official Honda then. And we were asked. And at that time, I was not gullible, but susceptible to the... And when we went back, it reminded me.
Yeah.
And now, if anybody asks me, then I just have a bit of a think about the job. And then I'll go there and have fish and chips, or a burger, or a pint of Ockles ales. More importantly, I'll go see all my mates. That's it. Still great. Still listen to it. When McGuinness pull that, so when your man fell at end of Cronky Voddy, Irish lad, and the race was restarted, Hamilton, and the race was restarted, and at the initial start, John had been left behind, and in the restart, he didn't leave. He went for it and won the race. And I was actually sat on the edge of my seat, I'm listening to this on the radio, or computer or whatever, and I was like, whoa, look at that, rah, rah, rah. And I saw John at Alton Park not long after, and I said to him, wow, John, you rekindled my fun and interest in the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to go there.
No.
And I said, what did you reckon? And he said, for the first time ever, I left nothing in the locker. And I thought, whoa, does it take that? And of course now, Hickey, you look at the island, we're going on a bit too much about the island, but you look at the island, for sure, the king of the bottom of the mountain is Dean. Or you see him.
To Glen Helen. Yeah. And beyond, up to Ramsey.
No, well, you see him.
Or Michael, isn't it? Or Michael's usurped that over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
But Dean, it was at that point, Dean was the first half, Hickey was Ramsey to the grandstand.
And when you saw some of that film footage of Dean on the Kawasaki.
Through K-Trees.
Oh my God. And I don't care. If you've got a pulse, that's going to excite you. I don't care who you
100%.
It might scare you, but it's going to excite you. And then, of course, over the mountain, the precision and speed and Icky and, it's funny, a friend of mine, Johnny Hepburn, a New Zealander from Timaru, South Island. I met him through Robert Holden, who lived at my house when he sadly passed away there in 96. And John crashed on the veranda at the same place as Connor, and he went off just like Connor, and it was massive. And all the marshals, you can imagine, all the marshals are trudging down through the bloody fern and things. And next minute, who stands up? Johnny Hepburn stands up like, whoa, what's happened? What's happened? And he's going, what? And then he goes to flick his visor up, no thumb. It's stuck in the chain. So after a monster of a thing like that, he just nipped the end of his thumb, which he had sewn back on. It looks like a blind cobbler's thumb now. He's bashed it flat. And so it's, and now you think about all your friends, Simon Beck, and just, but not one of them. Yeah, I wouldn't say not one of them would have it a different way, but for sure they were laughing their socks off at the time.
Yeah.
It's so it's a challenge. The front boys for sure earn a shilling or two. I think it'd be much better if everybody earned a shilling or two. I think that they've currently got it very wrong, the way that the rider numbers are disappearing. I think that the fact that there's 30 bikes in a race or whatever is detrimental. When we did it, there was 100 and odd. The problem you've got, of course, is now when the front boys are doing 135, 140, and the back boys are doing 125, 100 and bloody.
Which still isn't slow, but in relative terms,
they're going to catch them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the longer the 10-second gaps are, the more it creates an issue. I don't know if there's a way of making them guys faster because it's man and machine.
Absolutely.
And it's always, the organisers always, the AC who organise it, always come up with that old shit, the throttle works both ways. But still a mega spectacle in it.
Unbelievable. It is. That's why I say the feeling that it gives you when you're over there. And we had a great year this year because we just did one chat with Dave Madsen Migdal, and that was it.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time we spent looking in different places. So we watched from the Craig, we watched from Hilbury, we watched from Gorsley, and it's just so cool.
Yeah.
And because the boys and girls that have done it, they're there because they want to be, not because they have to be. And that's the crucial bit.
Yeah. And I don't care how you look at it, the challenge.
Yeah.
Mum, dad, everybody. So brilliant. Like watching it, not going. So that's it.
So when you move on from the TT and you had the crash that you spoke about earlier on at Darley Moor, then comes the time to start GR Motorsport as your own team?
Yeah, I think...
kind of the catalyst for it all.
Well, there was one other crash that we ought to mention.
Go on.
Which was brought back to my memory just recently at Scarborough Gold Cup.
Okay.
Tony Copeland, the million-year flipping voice of Scarborough.
Indeed. Retired this year, didn't he?
Retired.
Yeah.
And Tony, gosh, I don't even know how old he is. He'd be his 70s. Even though he was 6 foot odd, he was one of the few riders that in his infancy, he went and lived in Spain and raced 125s and earned shillings. And so when he came back here, he would ask you the question, oh dear. He made Charlie Hiscock look pretty tame. And he would ask you the questions. And if you didn't get the answer he wanted, he'd ask you again. And you would have, and he'd be on the microphone and you might tell him to Lord Farquhar. But he used to commentate in the cafe along the top straight.
All right, okay.
And as he's come to retire, I started getting pictures of the programme. And I thought, oh yeah, well, it's mentioned in the programme and it's mentioned in his book, his memoirs. And I was in a bit of a battle along the top straight for the lead with a couple of quite well-known people. One of them rides Plummet Airlines nowadays. And I was this young punk on a TZ500. And and the commentary...
Some of his bits on it.
And he often left his bike unattended. and Tony used to sit in the cafe with the doors open and commentating. Anyway, they gave me a nudge and I went in the cafe. Fly out. And Tony sat here like this and I went straight through and out the back wall. And back onto the track in the south after him, chasing him again. But there were lumps of wood stuck in me, in the bike, and all sorts. Anyway, he was in the programme of the last race and saying, he said, was there any great memory? Yeah, when Brent Gladwin joined me in the cafe. So I should have spent more time at school with this Isaac Newton thing.
Physics.
So
Incredible.
The transition to GR Motorsport. Well, it became quite clear after injuries and one thing and another that when we went racing, then I was more inclined to let you pass me than stick the elbow in, which meant it had gone. So Tony, we went go-karting. And we did the twin engine pro kart things. We had a right laugh with that, and we did endurance with it. I built the karts, and we were quite good, and we did that endurance championship. But then we got racing Formula B, and then what I found pretty quickly is if I crashed, I could pick the whole thing up, throw it at the floor, run, jump in it, and get going again. So we won quite a lot of races. Then we did a bit of something in motorcars, but we didn't fit in.
It's not the same, is it?
Nah, we didn't fit in.
It's not the same.
And I got a phone call from somebody I spoke to 2 days ago, Glyn Robinson. And Glyn's from a little village called Scols, just north of south of Huddersfield. And just outside Nora Batty's town. And I think he wore socks like her, actually. And he rang me and he says, we've got a young kid up here, needs a bit of help and guidance. Do you fancy helping? And I says, here, I've stopped because I got hurt. I don't think I could go and watch. So leave me alone for now. Anyway, then a couple of weeks later, he rings me up and he says, here, we're working on this OW01. We've got the wiring harness in bits, which is not for me because I can get electrocuted off a 12-volt battery. So me and wiring, poor old Danny gets absolutely lashed if it's the only thing, my old classic shitters, I let him touch the wiring. Would I go up? And so I went up to their place and I was working away with Glenn, who's a mega engineer. Made a motorbike called Norman, and which the bodywork was copied by a certain John Britton onto his bikes. Anyway, I went up and he was building this bike, and there's some young kid with him. We weren't a young kid. We had a right laugh taking the piss. And I made the fatal mistake of, what are you doing here then, to this kid? Oh, well, Glyn said you'd help me race. I'm Pete Jennings. You know, that knowing look. And so that was, I rang Tony Robbo and I said, do you fancy with having a bit, what? I said to him, I'm a bit confused with all this. What do you reckon? And so we put together a bit of an effort where we got the use of Chung's van. Chung is named Glyn Robinson. He now owns the rights to sports motorcycles in New Zealand. Ducati, sports motorcycles as in Mike Aylward.
Yeah.
TT, 1978, blah, blah, blah. Steve Wynn. So Glyn makes all those parts in New Zealand, ships them all over the world. And they've raced last weekend. And Davey Todd, I believe it's Davey or Ike, has got one of these TTF1 things, and Glyn's going to take it to him with his rider this weekend at, I think it's Ruapona. So anyway, Glyn talked me into helping this kid, and we put a package together. I spoke to a few people, did what I do best. First year in, we won the British 600s, beating a quite brightly coloured team called B&M and Mike Edwards.
I'm back with Mike in the new year. I'll remind him of that. And
that started the job. And then the year after, Tony Scott had always looked after my engines and stuff, my RC30s and the Yamahas. The same time as looking after big Two Tall Terry's bikes, engines, and Keith Nichols, and also he was doing the TT stuff for Joey and all them. And I said to Tony, look, this V&M job, why don't we run, it's GR Motorsport, but why don't we call it Tony Scott Racing? We'll hammer Honda, Dave Hancock and all them, and get a load of kit out of them, and we'll grow the team. And so that's how we expanded to running Johnny Barton and Pete Jennings, and Jenny Simmons was there at the time, and Claire Fennell, and some great people around us. And there's a great picture of the team, and that was the start, really. But I was there right at the beginning of BSB in its current guise.
1996.
Yes, so 28 years ago, not 29. And I was there when Doug Barnfield, who worked at the ACU at the time, brought the rights, because they are known as the rights holder, brought the rights to British Superbike, British Supersport and British 125 to Robert Fennell of Donington Park and Donington 100.
Absolutely.
And the deal was done. I'm sure that's for another story. And Robert Fennell, at that time, we'd got a nice team like now, and Robert came to the teams and said, look, we're going to get a bit of television. If the teams can think about, well, want to raise the image and a motorcycle sport, want to do a few bits and pieces. I think Stuart Higgs were just blinking somebody's eye at that time. And so Tony and I bought into it. And we bought a big double-decker bus, the Armour All bus it was. Upstairs was living, downstairs was workshop, Tony Scott Racing, and we got all the team clothing, and that was really the start of BSB. And Darrell Healy with GSE joined, and obviously Honda were there at the time, B&M, and
Rob Mack, Booth.
Yeah, but Rob Mack was Rob Mack. And he didn't go so big with the truck because he had that horse.
It was that horse box, wasn't it? The converted horse box.
But
the Super was converted horse box.
Yeah, an Oakley horse box. I shouldn't know this shit. That he'd somehow wrestled off of Steve Parrish, who was the former, and
a lot tight stuff, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we at Donington, where it used to be outside the front of the garages, and there was that little step with those crappy chairs on the top, and we started then with plastic flooring and pit walling of type.
Yeah,
it's not like
of its time. Yeah.
And I brought in at that time Snap-on tools. Sean Derrick, who married Alison Grade, daughter of
Sir Michael.
Yeah, there you go. He was one of the boys at Snap-on with Max Christmas, of all people, who I still deal with today. Great bloke. And we had a New Zealand mechanic, and I've never been a smoker, and I definitely don't understand recreational pharmaceuticals. Hand me a Jack Daniels bottle or 17, I might be in with you. And anyway, they got flipping drunk, got locked out the bus, and ended up in the garage, freezing cold in their underpants, wrapped themselves up in tyre warmers, switched them on. That's a recipe, isn't it?
For second-degree burns, yeah.
Yeah, luckily for them, it was the outer bit that broke, so they set fire to my plastic flooring. which was... God
bless them.
And so that's how the team started. But we always, like with Pete Jennings, Pete, same birthday as me, just all sorts of weird things. And Pete came and raced for us, and he some good prize money. First thing he wanted to do with his prize money, by the way, which pissed me off, was buy a Vauxhall Calibra.
Oh,
Hey, what a weapon.
the days,
Oh my God, what a thing.
2 litre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 on the front, and on the back. And then BSB started, it changed directions quite a lot of times with Octagon coming in, and obviously oh gosh, what was it called? Nicola Fulston ran it for a little bit.
2-4 Sports.
Yeah, 2-4 Sports. Then Nicola Fulston got involved with that, and her brother Josh. Then Donna got involved for a little while. Octagon it was at the time, I believe.
Octagon, yeah.
Octagon lifted the job again by giving all the teams nice little sales packs with DVDs in them, and we were there and we grew as a team. And then from the beginning we were quite Honda, and then in Honda's 50th year there was a bit of a disagreement, so we changed to Suzuki, and in Honda's 50th year we helped Suzuki spank Honda, which wasn't a bad thing. It was more the people we spanked.
Racing's racing.
My personal collection is mostly the nicer of the Hondas, so I love the brand. So we did that, and we had Dean Thomas. You know, the phone call for Dean Thomas's dad to come.
Tick.
Yeah, that phone call.
Tell me about Dean Thomas's dad, Brent.
Oh my God. Oh dear, oh dear. So
I'd taken notes on that Friday night when we chatted.
I love a night out, and I really love a night out with the boys.
Yeah.
And it's 66-year-old, and Friday night if I'm at home, we still go out with the boys, and if the girls ask us what we talk about, the answer is we don't know, because we talk shite, absolute shite. I'm not allowed to talk about motorbikes. They're not allowed to talk about this. We talk shite, but we laugh our heads off. And we go to the bars where we know where the music is. Generally speaking, we drink Pirelli or Madrid. And sometimes we come home early. And early might be 11:30, and early might be 7:30. So it depends on, and we don't go out until 7:30. So you kind of understand.
Old school.
Going
out at 7:30 and you get home when you get home.
Exactly.
None of this preloading, going out at 11 o'clock bullshit.
No.
7:30. We'll see you down there, boys. We'll get home when we get home.
A few beers. And as we've got older, of course, our delightful partners in crime are
Significant others.
Our significant others have decided that because we snore and fart, we're better off with Friday night rooms, aren't we?
Do you know what? Weirdly, I think we could do with one there, because I go out on a Friday night to the local, sitting there, chat with the boys. None of them are into racing. It's just talking shit, talking football. But I drink bitter.
Right.
So I need to be in the other ring.
Yeah. So it's you that's this global warming job. See, I understand. Yeah, methane.
Yeah.
But back in the day, I used to do Thursday night as well. And Thursday night in Sheffield was Lead Mill night, which is just there on that photograph. It's just there. There, look, there, it's down there. That's the Lead Mill there. With that light, bright light, that's where got it down there. Yeah, there you go. Right. On Thursday night, they used to have Brian Westlake did a 60s and 70s music night, and it was such a hoot. And I mean a hoot. And the stuff, the music was just mega. And the riders used to go there, but most people knew.
Yeah.
Don't ring me on a Friday morning. Because one, I wasn't complis mentis.
Nope.
And two, I'd be pissed off if you rang me. Because I only went there if we weren't racing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, I if Dean listens to this, he will laugh. He's in England with his family down in Cornwall. They run a very successful pet food business with Hannah, who we met in Sheffield.
Excellent.
And 2 lovely kids. I'm not sure what he was thinking, because his son's called Toby. So Toby Thomas.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Big strapping rugby lad. And Dean is very happy. No motorcycles. Anyway, he gets this phone call, and I'm not very good at the accent, but "G'day, mate. This is Tony Thomas." And I'm like, "Who the fuck is this?" And really abusing it, like, "Who is it? Stop pissing about. Is that you? Is that you?" And it was like, piss off. Next minute, phone rings again. "G'day, is that Brent?" And I'm like, "Who is this?" "Tony Thomas from Australia. I want to talk to you about my son, Dean." "Are you taking the piss?" No. I said, "Do us a favour. If it's really you, ring me back later." And he went, "Oh, okay." And boing, put the phone down. Anyway, when I came round, because we had a particular night, I was like, "Who the hell with that?" Of course, we were, it's not like looking at your phone, is it?
No.
And Dean, so anyway, his dad and his mum shares my birthday as well. And they were on the phone saying, "My son's just won the Australian Supersport Championship backed by a shitty company called Motec in its infancy."
Yeah.
And he's beaten I had this choice, kind of. Did I take first or second in championship or both? Anyway, Dean won it from somebody called Troy Bayliss.
I don't think he ever amounted to much.
Nah.
Never heard of her.
Anyway, it was just another one of them phone calls that I thought, that sounds like a right good idea.
Yeah.
And Dean sold his ute and packed everything up, and we went and collected him. And this blonde-haired kid rocked up on a full-blown diet, looked ill, and first thing I did would take him to KFC and say, "You need to get something to eat, kid." He were.
You need some protein.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And then we took him to Leadmill, and he couldn't get. He called us oldies, because in Australia you're called oldies, and he couldn't understand that the oldies were going out, because the oldies had knitting lessons in Australia. And if you lost him and he looked across the dance floor, you could see this blonde hair going boing, 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 boing. And that started the relationship with Dean. And when I went through a couple of illnesses, he was one of the few riders that always used to say, "How are you? What's happening?" And so that's the story of how Dean Thomas arrived. But what I didn't realise was we'd had Rob Holden stay with us, and Rob stayed with us for 4 years. He lived at our house and brought his missus over, Joanne, who then became kind of fits in. I'm sure she became the chief constable of Wellington. He kind of fits in with how she was.
Yeah.
And she was a pro triathlete, but the veteran side.
Yes.
And but I'm pretty sure that Dean and Rob were giving my bloody phone number out as a waif and strays Antipodean. If you find your way here, you'll get some.
He's your man.
Yeah, I should have put a big fence up. And it was with Rob. Rob was mega. He travelled the world scene with me and Charlie Corner, and we had a great time with his engine tuner was Ron Grant, and we had those times. That's another funny one from that period. Joey Dunlop story. So Joey, we'd all done all right at the Ulster Grand Prix, and we went to the Newtown Ards road safety event.
No, okay.
Which was a room, like the wheel tappers and shunters room, with loads of chairs and tables, and on stage was a load of riders, all to be questioned. And there was Joey Dunlop and his brother, and me and Mike Swan, Scott Swan's dad.
Yeah, lovely fella.
And Mike Swan, Scott's dad, got me in trouble. And I was quite unappreciative of the trouble he got me in. And if I can find you this picture here, because you will blooming laugh.
Oh my days. Swanee's mullet.
That's not Swanee, is he? In that Davy Todd?
Oh my God. He's
Mate, if you have to send me that, and I'll put that up on the video. Oh shit, that I can fade that in. That'll come in somewhere around about here, because that's incredible. So for the audio listeners, with the picture of Mike Swan in his heyday, looking just like Davy Todd, with the tash, with the mullet, that Scott has also had this year without the tash.
Exactly.
Because he can't grow one.
Anyway,
That's incredible.
so we were on this stage with Nick Jeffries, Gary Cowan, some great
Proper doers.
Yeah. But there was Joey Dunlop. And we're all sat there waiting for questions. But who wanted to speak to us? Nobody. And of course, so we're down the end of the stage having his own bit of a shindig, and and up the other end of the stage there was everybody going, "Oh, Joey, what about this?" And all you could hear was couldn't hear a bloody word. Next minute, something was said, and we started laughing. The commentator looked, and he said, "Have you boys got something to share with us?" And Swanee went, "Yeah, Brent's just been telling us about when he beat Joey Dunlop." And I went, because all of a sudden there were 500 baying Irishmen ready to lynch me. And it wasn't because I was in the wrong blooming religious.
No, we don't want to talk up there, that side of it as well, yeah.
And I looked at Swanee and I looked back at his commentator and he said, "Have you got something to tell us?" And so I looked at Joey. I looked at Joey and I went, "You know what we're on about, Joey." And he went, looked at me with that, "We were friends." He looked at me and I said, "Come on, Joey, you know the crack. You were embarrassed." And of course, these Irish are all going, "What? And we've got Nick Jeffries here, he will witness. Andy McGladdery there, he will witness." And Joey's going, you can see him going. He was draining, going, where's this going? And I said, "Oh, come on." Even Jeffries on his factory Honda slipped up inside of him with a bit of slippy sliding going past him, but Michelin's, here's me with Dunlop front, Michelin rear. And I says, and then we've got McGladdery with the old growler, and we all know what growlers are. And we've got the old growler, I get past him, and then there's you. And you made a mistake. And I dived under you and got out the gate first onto the grid. And of course, all these Irishmen just took off like you've just done. Joey nearly fell off his chair laughing. Well, what I didn't realise is that the flow of beer then, I wish I remembered that forever, but I've never been able to use it again. And so these, again, we go back to these crazy memories, but it's back to what we're doing today. And every time we did anything, which is the Dean Thomas thing, he had to sell his ute to come here.
Yeah.
And they came and lived at our house, and the mother of my children, Yvonne, who we get on brilliant now. She's a grandma now, like I'm a granddad, and she put up with all this shit. My mum lived down the road where Ashley and his wife Alex are just buying mum's house off me, and the riders and mechanics used to go and stay at my mum's, and there's a rider called Hugh Walker, and what a bizarre lad. Sadly, he's passed away. But he used to go home and walk in the house, and my mum we used to, he'd woke up to boiling pot looking and go, yum, yum, every night. You know, like some kind of, yum, yum kind of thing. And so it was fantastic times. When my mum passed away, we buried her the day the Twin Towers went down, which is why you see on social media 9/11. There's always something from me, and I sadly don't have any new pictures of her. And when she passed away, people came from all over the world. All Canadians, Skiddy Joe, Australians, Moose, flipping out some stories about that boy. Moose, the New Zealanders, and I got the first round in 2001. The first round were 918 quid. I nearly had a coronary for a Yorkshire lad. But all these guys, and there was always a backstory. And it was always the guys that started life like I had in racing. And that's what the ethos of the team was. I think we've changed the lives of a lot of people. And I think, more importantly, I've got a shitload of friends who are friends. Obviously, it doesn't always work out like that, it's...
That's just a rich tapestry of life, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's more that I'm a knob. According to rumour, anyway.
Well, some might say. Tell me about Carl Harris. Tell me about the relationship with Carl Harris and the journey that you had with him with GR Motorsport, because that goes down in motorcycle folklore.
Oh, God. Carl. Wow. Where do you start? So Carl was a complete... I want to say bonkers, but I'm using it a bit too much. Carl was... young Carl, actually... To say old Carl's been gone a while, young Carl's got an awful lot of his dad's. I've seen him in the office at BSB recently at Ulm Park, and he was giving it all the girls in the office, all the grannies, "You're my favourite," and then he'd say to everyone, "She's not really," just the shit that Carl would do. Carl, he appeared out of motocross. He didn't have the best upbringing. Not, I don't mean that detrimentally, because everybody does the right thing, and he joined Ron Haslam's Team Great Britain and did okay, and then I don't know quite what happened, but it was great, and that's how him and Leon were such big friends, and he used to go and stay down the farm. And then in 1998, he joined Cab Racing alongside some nugget called Steve Plater, commonly known as Platy Chips. And Cab Racing was, oh God, I'll tell you in a minute, Chapman's. And as you know, John Chapman has currently got a better collection than I have, although mine are rarer. And John and his brother, they ran Cab Racing for their son, his brother's son, Jago, Hondas, and Carl rode there, and he basically destroyed about 600 Hondas in 1 year, and it wasn't funny to watch from other teams' point of view.
Oh no, because you know how much it costs.
But it was funny, but it wasn't. Anyway, he was outed from the team, and somebody had said to me, "We're looking for a ride," and I went, "Nah." Anyway, one day there's at my front door, and I opened the door, and who stood there but Carl Harris? And he went, "Oh, Brent, I've come to see you about it." I went, whoa, don't want it, don't need it, couldn't afford it if I did. Shut the door. And And of course he stood outside going, he could see what's happened to this.
It should have processed it all.
And anyway, he did something that I'm not going to tell you that made me laugh, and it made me laugh. And so much so that Yvonne was, what's going on? And anyway, he came in, cup of tea, similar to me, cup of tea, this, that. And he was 18. And the timing, again, was just right. I was thinking about BSB, where I fitted.
Yep.
We'd run RC45s. We'd run some nice bikes in these levels. But I was like, where are we? We'd done 5 years close on, and the sponsorship was growing. And at that time, there was this new championship that was all about developing young kids.
Yeah.
But that's my description. It wasn't. It was about developing future champions. And it was the European Superstock Championship. All brand new.
Yeah.
And 1,000cc bikes. And it all looked pretty cool. It was to run alongside World Superbike. I was questioning. Where do I fit? How do I sit? What's this? And I started, it's making me laugh, and I'm starting to think, hang on a minute. Well, we were Suzuki.
Yeah.
And we'd got a couple of GSXR 750s, the first of the fuel injected, and we got the 600s. And I started to, this is a quick process. Things with me suddenly go like that. Yeah. I just thought, again, the ethos of the team was always been helping the youngster, can we find somebody who goes on to be better than us, and, all this stuff. And this was really the first opportunity for the ethos and the team to do something a bit bonkers. And so I listened to what he got to say, which was mostly crap. Because, as we talked earlier, our vocabulary today is seriously questioned over what we said yesterday.
It's of its time.
Yes. And he was telling us the story and making us laugh. And he was sponsored by Rayner's Cars in Colville, and a few people were doing a few bits and pieces. And so I went, I'll tell you what, let's let BSB 600 thing do its thing, but I'm going to do this with you. And we built a truck. I hand built it. It was known as the Black Whale, because we painted it black. And we built living in it, and I decided to go and do this. Anyway, I spoke to Nick Barnes at Suzuki GB, and I did the best deal ever, even though I didn't know it at the time. At that point, as official Suzuki Supersport, when they were making a lot of money,
yeah,
we were given strong financial support and products and Yoshimura parts and things. But when we went to do this new European championship, Nick Barnes, the Argasan, and Paul Denning, who was politically making his own way at that time, thought that what we were doing wasn't quite right. And I've got a letter, which I've still got, from them, basically saying, you've lost the plot, this ain't going to happen, we're not supporting it officially, see you later.
Wow.
That's my
interpretation. Yeah.
With a bit of a and we'd already got this. We got the 750s, but everybody else had got R1s and fire blades, and I put a team together of people. Neil Geezer Young, who went on after that to work for Rumi. he worked at Rumi Honda, and we met him. Neil Geezer Young, Joe Proctor from America, and I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, go on. So I rang Eddie Roberts, and I said to Eddie, here, Eddie, I've got a bit of an idea here. He was working for Pirelli at that time, and he'd been in different places at Pirelli. And anybody who knows Eddie, he's the nicest bloke alive, but he has got a bit of a weird accent from over that side of the country, so you can't trust him. I said to Eddie, here, can I show you something at Mallory Park? And he went, yeah, what is it? I said, bring some tyres. And we rocked up with Carl. Just me, Carl, Joe, the bike, GSXR 600. And Eddie turned up with some tyres and a bloke to fit them. And he said, what are we doing? I said, I want you to have a look at this. And I was going, you know, one of them Irish mine detector. And we sent Carl out on these.
Carry on. I'm listening.
We sent Carl out on these Metzeler tyres, and Carl tore Mallory Park a brand new horse in the depth of winter and put that record pace on. And Eddie looked at it, I looked at it. Eddie didn't know that I didn't know. And so Eddie went away and put me a package together from Metzeler. And we went with the Suzuki 750 to Donington Park for the first round of the World Superbike, but the first round of the AXO Leathers European Superstock 1000 Championship, all aimed at young riders.
Yep.
Anyway, we rocked up, and there were a couple of older riders in it as wildcards, but they weren't allowed to score points.
Okay.
And there was the Jim Moody's and bits and pieces like that. And anyway, we'd already learnt to ban Carl's dad, and by the time we got to this, and we went, and Carl won, and caused shit, caused absolute shit, because the head of Flamini Group Technical didn't believe we'd won on a straight GSXR 750, which I still have. And it's still the same as it was then. And that bike was stripped more times than a bloody two-stroke in that year. And Carl just did what he was. And when Carl was on fire, anybody who's ever watched Carl Harris, when Carl was on fire, him and that bike danced. That's what they did. Strictly has got nothing on him and the motorbike when they were in love. And he did shit that was impossible. It was impossible. And you'd stand there all the time and go, what the fuck? But prior to that, we've had this bit of a run-in with the parental side of things. And I went and collected Carl from his dad's place, which was a caravan in the middle of a field where its three sons lived. And Yvonne put him in the attic at my house. And I just kept saying, leave us alone, leave us alone. And every time his dad came to the track, there was shit.
Yeah.
Because if Carl qualified third, he said, why haven't you gone pole? If he went pole, he said, why haven't you broke that record? Yeah. It was just constant pressure.
Nothing's ever enough.
Nothing was ever enough. So much so that I told him, don't come to the track. And he came to Monza. And Carl had a mare. And I was that pissed off with him. Me and Joe and Geezer, I drove off and left him there. And by the way, I took his passport with me. And the little twat got home before I did. And But so we won incredibly.
Yeah.
And it just started this thing. And I was clearly much younger then, so I was still teetering on bonkers. No, I'm not now, but we got a lot of friends who saw what I was trying to do, who suddenly everybody were grabbing everybody's shirt, coattails, and all this stuff. And anyway, just touching on Donington. So he won, and did an incredible job at World Superbikes as a feature race. And then, who would have thought it? 25 years later, in 2024, at the World Superbikes at Donington Park, his bloody son goes and wins his first race. Incredible. Of course, a bit like now, Brogy's doing a brilliant job.
Super.
No to do with me what young Carl's doing.
Yep.
Not interested. It's not my gig. They're doing a mega job. But I had to go and stand there, and I got tears running down my face. And
You can't not, can you? It's so personal.
even the Iggsy was going, "You silly soft sausage," and he didn't say it like that. But and just incredible. And so then in 1999, we built a special bike. Suzuki, who'd said, "We're not supporting you," I actually said to him, "We're going to win this. And when we do, you are not going to be allowed to use his image for nothing unless you pay this."
Some pennies.
No, it weren't some pennies.
Some lots of pennies.
Oh, it was a pile of bikes, and it was this spec.
Oh, there's bits of it. Oh, it's one of those.
Oh, and Nick Barnes went, yeah.
A proper Brent deal.
Yeah, oh, it was mega. It was brilliant. And, of course, we won the first race, and they all started going, raising eyebrows. And then we went, and it was all in the GR's black and orange, which we loved. And we started to go to these foreign races. And what were brilliant was when we raced in England, Carl were going, "Ooh, Jim Moody," or "Ooh." We went to the foreign lands, and it was Oliver Daniel Bolto. He'd go, "Oh," and Jean brothers and Nicholas Carlsberg, and he'd go, "Oh," all this.
Don't care who they are.
I don't give a shit. And when we started, there was 3 Suzukis on the grid. Funnily enough, another person who started a team back then with Mikel, I can't remember his name, a Belgian kid, was a certain Bartholomew.
Ah, Michael, yeah.
Michael.
Yeah.
So he started a team then with the Superstock, and he had Suzukis. And there was Bert Ponsken, Katja's dad. He was the official Suzuki Germany person, and he took over, started helping us where Suzuki UK wouldn't.
Wow.
And so we got help from him, and then we as we went towards Albacete, we knew we were doing a good job, but we were struggling for money because that 22 miles of water does stop the UK sponsors.
Absolutely.
It stops them dead.
Yeah.
And
Still does now.
And it's incredible why it does, because they all watch television. And I'm pretty
Much
sure...
so these days,
yeah,
YouTube, everything for coverage.
I know that there were no John Wayne film filmed in the Peak District. So it's incredible how it does stop people. But the timekeepers, the BSB timekeepers, TSL timing, Graham, John Planas, they were saying, "Oh, you're doing well, and what's happening at Albacete?" And I said, "I think we're going to have to go back to old ways of robbing bin wagons here." And what do you mean? "Oh, we're struggling with this because we've had a few hiccups." Blah, blah. They had a whip round. Honest to God.
Brilliant.
They had a whip round. Hence, John Planas to this day, has got one of Carl's winning trophies because we get it in from Malvern Center.
Absolutely.
I wish we hadn't. I wish I'd still got it, but never mind.
Oh, yeah.
They supported us. We slept under the van. It was warm. We slept under the van, you know, and we did that, and then things started to this ball, and then we got in this battle with Danny Bulto. Oliver Daniel Bulto, grandson of Mr. Bultaco, and their family trait was dead easy. If you were a male of the Bulto family, you had to go to university, you had to learn this many languages, you had to race motorbikes, or you were disinherited. That's kind of not, but that's how it was.
Yeah.
And Danny came with the factory Aprilia, and he was on Dunlops. So at the beginning of the year, there was 3 Suzukis. There was 3 people on Metzeler Pirellis.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, over half the grid had swapped to Suzuki, and Eddie was selling more tyres than you could shake a stick at. There was Baron Bronnen was the head of Metzeler. He was funny, and we even Aprilia changed from Dunlop to Pirelli, and of course then we went. Eddie was head to head with Salvo Panisi, this internal Metzeler against Pirelli.
Yeah.
Things started, and they were building special tyres, and Eddie says they're building special tyres, so they took me and Carl and Joe. We went to visit Metzeler, and they showed us how they were building tyres, and they were going to build some special ins, and Carl nicked a pair of shoes out of a shop, brilliant, just brilliant. And then Danny's such a well-educated kid. What a lovely kid. But a bit wet behind the ears. And at Assen, we had the first ever, which any of you guys out there, you want to look up, one-handed relay, Assen, 1999, please, go and watch it. Holy shit. It's just the commentators, which were the great old commentators, bloody Ewan and and Julian, just have a look. It's not possible. I don't think it's been done since either, but that's a biased opinion. We went to Assen, and Dave Jeffries turned up on the R1, on the V&M R1, and as we know, Dave was incredible. But it was a bit of a spoiler for us, because he would have taken points off us. And Danny Bulto was doing everything possible. And Carl just went. And he pulled away from Dave Jeffries at 2 seconds a lap on 127 horsepower, GSXR 750, fuel injected, which again, I've still got. I'm repeating myself.
What?
And it's still got all the scrutineering stickers. I've got the trophies, the shirt, the leathers, the boots, the gloves.
Yeah.
I've got everything except that trophy of John Plymouth. And he pulled away from Dave Jeffries at 2 seconds a lap. And the following weekend, we were at Hockenheim. And Danny pulled off a couple of, they were beautiful political things. One, he protested the bike, and he asked for a third gear and an inlet valve. Engine down, week to go, no workshop. Joe Proctor took great pleasure in pulling the engine out, in scrutineering, stripped it, showed him it, telling them to Farquhar off, put it all back together, put it in the bike, fired it up. So we went to Hockenheim, and now at Hockenheim, we met NVIDIA going into Hockenheim, because one of our great friends now still, and you see him on social media, Rod Stewart, Greg Stewart, and Greg...
frighten the life out of me, that.
Yeah. And that's my son. I shall ring you back. And I'll turn. Yeah. And
We're only halfway through.
So, so he pulled off a couple of mint political things. The first one was getting the bike stripped. But because of this one-handed wheelie and how strong we were, and because of Bert Ponskin, we got the opportunity to replace Yves Breguet in the Endug Metal Systems factory Suzuki Supersport team.
Okay.
Going into Hockenheim. But we hadn't been to Hockenheim. And I actually thought, normally I wouldn't have allowed it, but I thought, track time, this is going to be mega. So Carl thought, I can win this. And I was like, oh, okay. So we turns up at Hockenheim and we met Danny Van Helmen and his team. Danny's now at the top of Motorex Oil and a long-time friend. And we call each other XXXL bastard. He's one of the few people on this planet that's made me envious.
Why?
Because in Switzerland, you can't leave school unless you can speak so many languages. And he sat at a dinner table with us, and there was 12 of us, maybe 7 languages, and he bounced between them all. And just unbelievable, mega. And anyway, he came wandering over Assen and said, Yves is injured. Would you like to ride the Supersport bike? And I went, good idea, track time. Don't really want to do it because we've got a championship to win. Thought there might be a bit of a ruse, to take the championship off us, all this. And but Carl was begging me to do it. And I said, go on then. Well, anyway, he bloody qualifies on the front row on this superstock bike. And then you're getting edgy. What are you looking at? Are you running out of tape?
No, not at all. I was wondering where my hands were on that screen. I can see it there.
Stop touching yourself. Or if you don't want to be filmed doing it, don't do it. Take that towel off your head. I'm
still suppressing the mind sweep.
And anyway, he qualified 5th on the 600. And everything lit up. The job was out of control. It was such fun. And the Superstock 1000 race was in the morning. So I said to him, just calm yourself on 600. We're going to let you have the 600 later. And anyway, Danny Bulto got all the riders together and made a bit of a protest that Carl were getting extra track time.
Wow.
And it's not very nice. So I said to Danny, it's not cricket. And they all got together and had this huddle and we wandered over. And what's going on then, boys? Well, it's not fair. You've got extra track time. I said, Danny, have you pulled this together? And he went, yeah, well, I don't think he's right. I said, politics? Really? Do you want to do politics, Danny? And he went, I said, follow me. Come on, Carl. So we walked out the paddock, top of pit lane, Hockenheim, all the way down Hockenheim pit lane, into the Aprilia garage. And I said to him, he's going to win championship. Do you want to sign him? He said, that Spanish peacock. And the bloke said, when would you like to talk to him?
Oh, no.
Yes. So a Spanish peacock's head fell off. And I'm taking the mickey, but again, we still speak.
Yeah.
Racing's racing. And anyway, this time for the stand-up wheelie, he said he could do it again. And so we got the photographer to take that picture that became global. It's the only time Pirelli have ever had to do a rerun of Power is Nothing Without Control. And that photograph was used, NGK, Pirelli, just Suzuki, blah, blah, at a cost. And anyway, Carl was under instruction. Just chase him home, kid. And Danny, bless him, on that Aprilia, he took it to Carl. He proper took it to him. Clever riding, everything. Carl was riding by the seat of his pants, laughing his head off, giggling. And all I told him to do was, and he decided to destroy him. And when Carl decided to destroy Danny, everybody on pit lane went, oh my God, he's gone for it. Lap record, bang, lap record, bang, lap record, bang. Danny's coming hard, proper. It was brilliant. It wasn't the BSB finale, but back in the day, Hockenheimers produced some wonderful races. You know, the Swans Rainy race, the Foggy, Kazin, Jake,
all of those. Brilliant.
And we were getting all of this. And also, in the background, there was 80,000 Brits, because going to be crowned was Prince Charles and King Carl. Prince Carl and King Carl, you know, and anyway, coming on to the start and finish straight with, I don't even know how many laps to go, Danny fell. And the relief was incredible, but it wasn't fair on him.
99.
But it wasn't fair on Danny, is what I mean.
Yeah, no, I agree, yeah.
And then he came over the line, did that wheelie. And then we collected the trophy, and next minute it was on the Supersport bike, and bloody did it. You know, he didn't win, but he was collecting big trophies.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the story. And then the whirlwind started. You know, NEC, just Young Rider of the Year, like young Carl, and then, you know, we helped him with a lot of things from that point on. Tony helped manage him and trademarked him, which, much to the disgust of Paul Denning, who wanted to sell replica bikes. And, you know, then went on to greatness, didn't he? You know,
incredible.
Just such a thing.
From a humble start.
And just mega. And again, we're at that point again. You know, where we are now is exactly the same feelings that was 25 years ago. The same. Allegedly, I've been seen grabbing pit boards. So Danny told you.
Well, what I'm going to do now, because we could do this for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I know that the Stauff team haven't got another 2 hours. You haven't got another 2 hours. There's so much more to go through with so many riders to talk about. The incredible Tommy Aquino. Yeah. We need to do another show, Brent.
Oh, sorry.
Are you up for
next Christmas?
Just after Christmas. Talk to me. We'll cut a reasonable amount out of the career, but we'll do a whole show on that. Yeah. But the point of sitting down for this point is things are different.
Yes.
Now things are changing. Let's bring it right up to date. Talk to me about Chloe Jones and what plans you've got for GR Motorsport. Talk to me about the ladies WCR. Talk to me about what's coming 2025 and yourself and your plans.
So 29 years, incredible, really. Where's it gone? You know, flipping heck, you know, where's this show gone?
Yeah.
You know, and lots of things have happened. We've changed a lot of people's lives. We've got, as you know, with Danny, we've got a great fella there.
Super.
We let him loose a couple of years ago with team management, for want of a better description. It's much, much, much more than that. We've given him every tool possible. And BSB, we won a race this year. We've taken another one, Storm. You know, when he came to us in 2019, nobody wanted him. You know, Kev Malloy brought him along, and he was supposed to be riding at Apple Yards. That went away. In the early part, he was difficult, can be today. Moons and things like that fell into place. we've taken him from there, got special dispensation for him from Stewart, FIM, all sorts to put him on a bike when I was 16. Went to a certain point, and 2023 was a great year, breakthrough year. This year invested heavily in the right bikes, the right everything. Great year, but we couldn't follow the I and the T. We couldn't follow it. The Stauff bike, you know, right from the off, Tom was incredibly competitive. Again, storming the dry, he was out. You know, when we went to Navarra, Tom was quicker than Storm, and then we had the crashes. Those crashes were hard to swallow, incredibly difficult to survive. The fact that Tom walked away from them all and then he hurt himself later, he's just gone through surgery, as you know. So again, through my address book, he's met a surgeon who's fixed his knee for him. You know, Dominic O'Dowd he lives just down the road. He's looked after Tom there. We had illusions of adequacy for this season. We thought we'd, you know, do a lot better than we did. We did incredibly well. Stauff stepped up from superstock to Superbike, which was unbelievable commitment from them. You know, as I said earlier, I've been coming here for 11 years, which is a third of my racing team ownership.
Absolutely it is.
And then the green bike that we like to address it. You know, the Stauff Academy was set up for the right reasons. John and I am all about Sheffield. I'm not, but you know what I mean. And John, the managing director of Stauff, is in his own words, he's the prostitute for the Stauff brand. You know, he wants it out there, and but he's all about youngsters, and we set up the Stauff Academy 2015 with Tara McKenzie. Now, previous to that, we were WD-40, and Stauff joined us as a great partner and the front fairing sponsor.
Yes.
Through a bonkers meeting. But then we set up the academy, and we took Taron from not a lot to winning the championship. In 2016, when we won the championship, that was all Sheffield money that paid for that. There was nothing from the Mackenzie machine. You know, at that time, it was Taylor's time. So, young Taz was going to sit on the grass if it hadn't been for us. So we've two sides. There's always been the academy.
Yes.
And there's always been the Superbike since 2013. We'll touch on Tommy Aquino later. But there's always been this thing. Yeah. The academy has done mega because we also made his own motorbike.
Yes. With
DR Moto, Dean Reynolds, where that frame that he made was just art. You'd have that on, you'd sit and get rid of your telly and put that there like me with the NS500. And we got this year, we moved it, and the garage was incredibly, the image that we created and Danny's team putting it together and it was mega, but we couldn't quite get it right. And we ended up with Tom getting injured. Then we had Emily Latte on the bike. Then Luke Mossy on the
Mossy came in,
and then we went with Brad Perry. All of them in the drive were actually faster than the other side, but it didn't work. Kevin and Quentin were flying in from Holland. Everything said that this was mega. But
that last 1% of the 1%.
And then we'd had a lot of Motec problems, like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And we'd lost 2 race meetings because of a Motec issue that couldn't be sorted out by Motec. And believe it or not, it was Ian Presswood of the other Kawasaki team, FS3,
Yep.
that helped us and went to Motec. Hey, we've told you about that. You know, one of those things. And frankly, it was frustrating because that looked like it was us,
Yes.
but it wasn't.
Nice to address that.
Yeah, and that is something we should talk about on a different day. But it looked to the sponsors like we were a bunch of monkeys trying to do something to a football. Once we got that straightened out, come on, David, get it together. Once we got that straightened out at Knock Hill, all of a sudden, you know, Tom had made a comeback at Knock Hill.
Yes.
He was getting back into it. Storm got a 4th place, fast, and we thought, hang on, here we go.
Yeah.
Then obviously we got to Snetterton. Well, anybody who knows Storm from his Moto 3 days, 600 days, whatever you want to do, you take Storm Stacey to Snetterton, it's, you know, you don't like the place. I think that's not how I'd like to describe it, but that's a reasonable
view, yes.
And going up until race day, we were in that same position. Race day on Saturday, weather, fun and laughter, combination of multiple things. First race, great gamble. Luckily, not my choice. You know, a conversation for Danny and Aaron Zanotti and Storm. Great gamble. Wet front, intermediate rear. That's a gamble. That's an Eddie Lawson gamble.
It absolutely is.
And early part of the race went backwards once he got the feel, because as we all know from all the bikes he rides, he's got, you know, he's always covered in mud, whether it's in a dirt digging blooming Land Rover or something. And he took off. And 10-second lead, you know, 15 lapper, 10 laps, 10-second lead. You know, we were sat quite quiet. And then, on purpose, we're all convinced, you know, there's something happened, and poor old Rory fell off. So he didn't spend much time at bloody school learning about Isaac Newton either. And Rory hurt his leg quite badly. So it was the right thing, 100%. It was the right thing to do, to stop the race. And I would have called it, anybody would have called it. Seeing Rory there isn't...
Well, he had snapped his leg, hadn't he, at that point? Yeah.
But it's irrelevant. None of us wanted to see that. None of us.
Of course not.
And obviously the family of BSB is such that we all live with it. That's a square mile of egos, if ever there was a place.
No question.
But everybody, it was the right thing. The decision to restart it wasn't the right thing.
Why?
Because I wanted the win. My name's Gladwin, not Sad Lose. You know, I wanted the win, and I was sending messages to Iggy saying, I'll take off points. You know, all that bollocks. And also the rain came down. So our gamble was incredible. But there was other gamblers, you know, Rolo, you know, there was... every now and again, money don't count. And so we went for the restart. Guess what? It's a level playing field now. But we'd all had a sniff.
Yeah.
And everybody sat down, and there were calming influences and all sorts of things, and a bit of confidence inspiring and some conversational bits. And also 5-lap dash.
Yeah.
And then what in the first part of the race, when Storm was settling in, the wet weather boys took off.
Yeah.
And you know, Kyle and they were going hard. So we expected that when everybody was on the same thing. But them two young'uns decided, fuck you, we're off. And they created something. And then, of course, we're looking at the TV going, what are you doing? Of course, Storm actually thought that if Lewis won the race, he won the pathway, but Storm won the other thing. It don't work like
Doesn't work that way.
If
No.
Storm wins the race and Lewis finishes seconds, he wins the pathway thing.
Absolutely.
Right. So there was a bit of messaging going off.
P2 not okay.
Well, I don't think it was quite as pleasant as that, but and Storm woke up and did what he did, which is incredible. So he actually won 2 races.
He did. No question he did.
Yeah.
100%.
2 races, 2 different conditions.
Yep.
Dominated. Him and Lewis, boom.
Agreed completely.
And walking up pit lane with all the other teams coming and cheering on, and pretty cool. Move forward. The Kawasaki isn't a bad bike. The Kawasaki is actually a really good bike. I thought so. I don't know what I've done here, but so the Kawasaki isn't a bad bike.
No.
In World Championships right now, you'd be trying to buy one. And what Garrett Gerloff's done is pretty sharp. And also, we are a private team, supported, but we do, some of my success were on that Albi motor. And so we knew what was there. But you've got to ride it right.
Yeah.
And anybody who's ever rode a Kawasaki knows that it's not about stopping it, it's about pushing it off the turns. And we saw with Storm struggling in the dry as he did and does. At Donington, Luke came in on the Stauff bike and John Morris was there, and he hadn't rode since October, and he jumped on the bike in the dry and suddenly went straight through into Q2 while Storm was struggling a little bit. And so there's things to learn.
Sure.
And then as we went on through the year, there's other things that were quite playing the TikTok game. Does that fit there? Does that fit there? Is this here? Should it be here? Where's this? And then Chloe Jones. Well, that's a bit of a story, because I've stopped that story just there to explain another story, and the Chloe Jones story started a year before. So the Chloe Jones story started when we were at Oulton Park 2023, 3 rounds to go. Weather's shit. We're trying to pack everything up. We would take the hospitality down on race day around 3:30, 4:30 to get it down before it goes pitch black. And there's a few members of the team missing. Mick Tibble in particular. He's watching Chloe Jones in this
Junior Supersport.
Junior Supersport. Wow, what's happening? Oh, she's beating the boys up. Oh, yeah. And anyway, I was watching. We couldn't do a lot because you can't get the Oni down without
exactly.
Anyway, she did a great job, and it was quite funny. And then it kind of started, the team, not necessarily me, the team going, where's that Chloe Jones? One of them things. It's a bit like...
You're piquing your interest.
Yeah, but these other riders, it's like, where's that Carl Harris?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And over the winter, I rang her to say, hey, you caused me some shit because my team are watching you instead of doing the job. In other words, we like what you're doing, well done.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind something between us, but
Yeah.
I haven't got a clue where you sit. So I don't know if there's anything I can do. But anyway, just wanted to let you know there is people looking at you. Anyway, she appreciated all that. Then move forward, all finished, conversation done. Next minute, I'm buying factory bikes because Storm Stacey. So it's gone. Claudio Corti. Now that is a mental case. There's never been a more nutter. There isn't anything that fits in that Claudio Corti box. Brilliant. So we had him for 2 years.
Yeah.
What a don't get in an hire car with him. Just don't do it. It's not.
You know, that's my final question.
Yeah.
For this episode, at least.
And he called Danny and said that he was involved with the Women's Circuit Racing World Championship, that we all call World WCR. And he was working with a lady called Roberta Ponziani, who didn't know Donington. Could we help by getting some track time? So, Clario's Claudio. And so Danny asked me, and I said, look, if we're going to do something, you know. So Danny made a few phone calls, borrowed a bike off his mate down in Chesterfield. It was supposed to be prepared. He ended up working on it for 2 days. Organised with no limits track days for Roberta to go there. Went there. I went with him, stood around, looked, wondering what's going on. Roberta, the bike ain't fast. As in, it's not a superbike.
Yeah.
And she learnt the track, and she started to learn more about the track because the bike won't go faster. And she was getting quite frustrated with some things. And Danny actually said to me, he says, I like this. I said, why is that? He said, she's desperately trying to go faster. I wish ours would.
Yeah.
And I was having a laugh and with them, and just nothing more than that. And then that was it, done. World Superbike, Donington Park. We're going because I've got guests in Prochetti's hospitality. Manuel and myself, I get my spare parts from there. I was actually talking to Manuel about funding Storm going in as the second rider. We had Storm there. Roberta went on the podium. And next minute we got the phone call from Claudia, where are you? Come down to Women's World Championship tent. Roberta wants to see us. So me and Danny walk in. Next minute, she comes up, oh, champ, thank you, all this, you know, we're podium and blah, blah, blah. Just thank you, which was pretty impressive. And then she was saying she was struggling with the chicane.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's a little bike. Well, bouncing over that chicane on a little bike
just unsettles it completely.
But we ain't got any experience. None. We can't say do this, do that, because we've got big bikes.
Yeah.
And Alzheimer's, I can't remember what we did yesterday, man, what we did with little bikes. So I thought, hang on a minute. Gets Chloe's number, rings Chloe. I said, you're here, aren't you? You're on the tracker job.
Yeah.
And hence Carl winning. And she said, yeah. I said, would you mind? We're at the Women's World Championship tent. Could you come over and have a word with Roberta? Tell her about the chicane. So she went, oh, yeah, no problem. So she wanders over, you've met her. She wanders over, has a chat with Roberta, and says, this is what I do. And Roberta went, whoa. And, really? And, yeah, you know, if you do this, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, Roberta goes out, boom, podium again. And it was just a bit, oh, that was kind of nice.
Mm.
So that's, do you know what I mean?
Usual for that.
Yeah, it's just kind of nice. Anyway, because of that, we were now watching what Roberta was doing, and we were looking at it on television and thinking, hang on, this racing's actually really good. And if you wanted to be pedantic about it, you could turn the commentary off and have Jules re-commentate it, saying Dave, Brent, Ian and Gavin, not Roberta, Maria, Anna, etc. Do you see what I mean?
100%.
And the front group were giving it plenty. Bit too big a gap, but it's like BSB. Those gaps appear. The way the championships run, is quite good because it's equal. You do this, do this, do this. Everybody has to start on the same sprocket, you know, blah blah blah. But we were watching it, and then I saw Chloe again at a meeting, and I said, "Are you doing? Your season finishes early. You're going to do a wild card?" She went, well, they won't give me one. So what do you mean he won't give you one? Oh, we've tried, I don't think my face fits. That's not what she said, but, And I said, I don't understand what you mean. So she said, well, they won't give me an entry. I thought, it's a bit weird.
Was.
So I rings Claudio, says to Claudio, hey, go on, this team are looking for a rider. Just ask them if Chloe's any good. So she went and saw this team, who remain nameless, and said, are you need a rider? Do you want a rider? And they, oh, yeah. What about Chloe Jones? No. I thought, anyway, Claudio comes back, tells me this. I thought, that's a bit of a piss take. So I'll just email Donna, BG, Carl Harris, World Supersport. This is what we're doing. We're thinking about maybe having a bit of a deal. What's the chance of a wild card for Chloe Jones? Not even 10 seconds. Oh, welcome back. So I said, right, what's this? So then it gets a bit drawn out. The bloody paperwork with 3 hours, the guarantees, the bits and pieces. So Danny got onto that. And once we got confirmed, we never said to Chloe. Never said a word. And then I was with Brad's sponsors, talking to Brad Perry's sponsors, talking about what's possible, helping him with his sponsorship portfolio. And Danny sends me a message straight away, we're in. Well, have you ever watched American Idol?
Yes. Right.
It's one of them programs. Bloody Britain's Got Talent, Strictly Come Dancing. I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. It's the same successful formula.
Yes.
Well, in that it says, if you are good, they go to judges, and say, if they say, you're good enough, they go, you're going to Hollywood. So I said to these guys, I said, look, I've just got a bit of news. Brad, I'm not taking anything away from you, but I've got to make a phone call. I'm going to put it on speaker, you can listen in. So I put it on speaker and I said, Chloe answers. And I says, yeah, do you remember that America's Got
Yeah, American Idol.
American Idol. He said, yeah. I said, Lionel Richie, Kate Perry, yeah. I said, what is it they say when you've done good and you're moving to the next stage? And she went, you're going to Hollywood. I went, you're going to a ref. And she went, what? And I went, you're going to a ref. What do you mean? I went, you're going to a ref. I said, look, I'm in a meeting.
Brilliant.
I'm in a meeting. I'll speak to you later. Bosh. And that's it.
She's on the other end going,
what? Yeah. So that's what happened. And then Danny, we got it all together. We had Chloe's mum and dad come and see us, and we basically said, look, we want to do it our way.
Yeah.
We want to do it the right way. So you'll drop Chloe off at the airport. She'll get on an aeroplane with me, Danny, and DK. She'll get in the hire car with us, which is dangerous, but that's what we're going to do. We've got an apartment, so she's getting a room with an ensuite. We'll be sharing a sweaty bathroom. She'll eat with us, drink with us. She'll work on the bikes with us. If you guys want to come, that's okay, but sit on the grass bank and eat an ice cream. And everybody went for it, and we know she'd not done much at a ref. We know she hadn't rode an R7 before we got there. We know 10 minutes before the first session, I hadn't rode on slicks.
I've forgotten about that. But you're on
First session, straight in there, 11th, three and a bit seconds off. Qualifying 9th, 2 and a bit seconds off. Warm up 8th. 1 and a bit seconds off, 2 seconds off. First race, 6th, 19 seconds off the win. But we've closed it down now to 1 second off, which set everything up for race 2. Race 2, incredible first 3 laps. 2 long laps. Going that fast, she's matching the new world champion.
Yep.
Actually, I think she lapped quicker by 0.00 of fuck all. But 2 long laps, and she got her head down and finished only 10 seconds behind, but she was in the shout.
Yeah.
That's a story that's there for everybody to see. But on our side, we were, the bit that I remember the most, as we talked earlier, was arriving at the World WCR encampment early morning, and the calm was such that you could hear the crickets. And that sits with me. It's so bizarre that we've done all this, but that sits with me. And then, received so well. Our social media was up and above what we did with Storm when he won, which Claire likes. And then you start ticking all these boxes, and that fits there, that fits there, that fits there. And so I made the decision to call time on BSB. It's a hard decision, I sat down with the partners. It was my decision, there's a lot of things to do with medical, all sorts of things. But I think the overriding thing is we might, for his 30th year, we might just go back to basics. And we've got some great partners where we're going to go and give the ball a kick.
Absolutely.
But that wasn't the process. It's only a couple of days ago. It's yesterday that we signed the documents. Yesterday. But of course, it's only bloody 2 months since the last BSB race. And we've done all these things. We've done a wild card. We've gone to Eichner. We've done bloody all these.
You've never stood still.
We've never stood still.
Not
So
at
it
all.
feels like a year. We've got people talking to us about television. We've got all these weird things. And you know what? Chloe comes from a great family, great background, similar to my thing. The World WCR is in its infancy.
Sure.
And for his 30th year, why not? Why not? You give me a really good... Why not?
Not a chance.
Yeah.
Not a chance. Because this is what keeps the sport going. You spoke about it earlier on. It's the passion for the sport that we do what we do.
Yeah.
It's why I do this. It's why you've done what you've done over the years. It's the passion for the sport that fuels everything. So why not go and do something else? So why not relax the reins a little bit, let Danny take things on, move it forward, back Chloe to be the rider that we all know she is, and that we can prove to her that she knows that she's the rider she is.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
I think that the rider thing, the proving to Chloe isn't the hard bit. I think that her and her family have done a mega job. I think that for them to be still in there battling against the odds,
Absolutely.
in that Phil Collins against all odds, against the odds. And also she's like Anna Krasko, she's one of the few girls who has taken it to the boys. You're not slow when you break a lap record or set a fastest lap or whatever you
Or
want.
stand on a podium at a British Championship event.
Exactly. And also what I like, and this isn't, again, I've got the older vocabulary, so I have to be careful, but she is the girl next door.
Yeah, of course.
She is the girl next door. And GR Motorsport have won British, European, Irish, South African championships. Three of our boys have gone on to be world champions, but I quite fancy that WC club.
It's an exclusive club. And if they, as they retain, as we spoke about earlier, retain the top riders,
Yeah.
because that's your marker, why not? And I completely agree with you when we spoke earlier. They are the cream of the crop of the female racers in the world.
Yeah.
So why not prove yourself to get that number one, to be the number one female racer? Not going to Supersport, not going off to wherever, coming back to the UK in Supersport, Superbike. That's the Women's World Championship racing.
We have motorcycling it is imperative that motorcycling inspires the next generation.
Sure.
And at the moment, as we talked earlier, my career started from riding motorbikes at school. At the moment, the one thing that we saw at a ref was the families. I mean, Storm Stacey's just wonderful with kids. He is mega, because in reality,
He is just a big kid, isn't he?
And he's mega. So GR Motorsport, in the Storm era, we have created a lot of young fans.
Yes.
But now, you know, we do live in a world of inclusion and equality, and rightly so. And I know my vocabulary don't fit in it. You know, we've had the jokes earlier that we can't repeat on here, and I'll admit that we've had those jokes. But there was a lot of families with young girls that will come in and looking at these riders, races, and our growth in motorcycling, in reality, is women and girls riding motorbikes.
Completely.
Because they might force their old boys to come out and have a ride as well.
Exactly. It also knock-on effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
And everybody's got a history with the sport, and if all of a sudden it comes in, and then, like I say, daughter wants to race, dad goes, well, I remember I used to potter about, and whatever, family comes along, work commitments, whatever, then all of a sudden they get the love for it back again. They see what's on offer, they see how the WCR works. It's absolutely incredible.
And don't worry, I mean, for the future, I am actually talking to somebody else, a young kid as well, for the Blue Crew 300 thing. Not for as part of us, just
but as an opportunity to advance their career.
But I think that in the same way that Storm is, and you know, Tom and Brad, and you know, a lot of the riders, you know, Chloe can be that ambassador.
No question.
And she can be the British ambassador.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
Under the GR Motorsport banner. We'll come back and do this after Christmas, when we'll talk about the BSB career, closing the door on the time in BSB. There's so many stories to talk through. Good, bad and indifferent.
I have kept a 30-year journal.
Well, you need to do some revising on that. Like, I was looking through this, and I'm like, yeah, we're not going to get that far. We don't need to talk about that. That's going to be really difficult. That's going to be entertaining.
Well, you could, if now I've mentioned the 30-year journal, if a hitman gets me, you know that somebody's because there's some good ones in there.
So have a look through that. 3 things to finish off. We finish off with the 2 main questions that we always do for the first-time guests in this version of Off Track and me doing podcasts over the last 11 years. Tell me the story of the high ace at the Southern 100, please. I remembered because I made a note.
Right, the Southern 100. We always used to go, and it was always difficult getting everything there.
Yeah.
Because if you went to go on, anybody who's been on those steam packet boats, if you get on the one that goes in the front or out the back, then you're all right with your van.
Yeah.
But if the weather's shit, you have to go through that little hole in the side of the van. And I got a transit, quite a big thing. And my mate, Veggie John, who got a nickname, his parents had got veg shops, and he got a brand new Toyota IAce, long wheelbase, with gear lever on the wheel and everything. And I said to him, John, would you be so kind as to lend me your van? I'm going racing. And he went, oh, you seem like a nice lad. Yeah, you can borrow it. So we loads up, and we've got the tent in there, the bikes in there, because we're in the tent in the paddock.
Yeah.
You know, go and shower and stuff in the swimming pool. Anyway, we got there. And when we weren't riding, we were having a beer. But why not? And the drink in the tent, and somebody had pissed about with the windscreen wipers on the Toyota. You know all that windscreen wiper.
Yeah.
Anyway, I gets in the van to put them back in. Anyway, I turned it on, and the windscreen wipers were on. And these windscreen wipers went like this. Instead of course, they do that, don't they? Well, if you put them forward, they do this.
They do that, yeah.
And I went. And my brother, who's as retarded as I am, jumps out the van, puts my gloves on the end of the Toyota steering wheel, and we start driving into people. We start nosing into people's vans to shake hands with everybody. But handbrake turning the van round the campsite on the sting and doing all this and going into people's. And of course, people are howling and laughing, and we're going up to them and slapping them in the face with a bloody. So anybody out there who wants to do this, just pull the windscreen wipers forward and switch them on. They do this, and so but it was. We didn't get arrested or anything, but it was funny that one of the lads, Trunky as he's known, I know you're out there, he ended up allegedly meeting an Isle of Manian young lady, and he ended up with a love bite on his neck, allegedly. Now, Trunky wasn't the best looking fella on the planet, hence the name Trunky.
Yeah.
And we saw a broken vacuum cleaner and a dead cat. So we had decided that he'd killed the cat, and to prove he'd pulled a girl, he'd put the vacuum cleaner on his neck. And then, of course, we put all that in the back of the Toyota Hiace with him and drove it round with the hands on the front, the back doors open.
No.
So, yeah, we never laughed.
No, I can't imagine. It's a serious business, that.
It was very serious. It was great advertisement for Toyota.
Final two questions, Brent. First one is in two parts.
Yeah.
From your racing days,
Yeah.
what was your favourite corner and why? That's a big one for you, for the tracks you've raced at.
No. It's easy.
Go on then.
Shimmy,
Okay.
last couple of bends before the last turn.
Right.
A nice sweeping set of things with a fast corner. And you guys who've been there, you know there's a brothel there, and you know there's a girls hanging out with the boaters, hanging out the windows. You've all been and seen them.
You know it well. You know it well. That's a new one. Shimei has never been mentioned before on the show. That's a new one.
We took a young man called Philip Walker to that establishment
Is the word,
on his
yeah.
21st birthday, when he had not encountered such pleasures before in his life. We went to the door with a group of donators. We knocked on the door and the little portal opened. And we said, it's his birthday. We've had a whip round. And she looked him up and down and went, for me. Closed. Oh, go on. Anyway, next question.
That's brilliant. And then the last one, what's your best hire car story, Brent?
Do you ask this anybody?
Everybody.
Really?
Every guest.
Dead easy. Claudio Corti.
I presume that was coming.
Oh my God.
Go on.
Do not get in an hire car with Claudio Corti. Don't do it. If he offers you a lottery win, don't do it.
No.
Portimao, Fiat 500. Everybody getting on at him. Jeff having a dig at him. Comes out with us in it. Comes out of the track, round the roundabouts. Comes to come round, and the road drops away just as you come off the roundabout. He's coming off there, flat knacker. We're all moaning at him, proper, stop it. With a bit more enthusiasm.
Good word. Like it. Yeah.
And he puts the wheel down the ditch. The car goes boing, 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 up into the air. And of course, we are going, stop it now. With a pressure round necks and things. So he drove from there to Playa de Rocha in first gear on the rev limiter with the hook on. Hang on a minute, how far's that?
How far is it?
It's about 20 minutes. At 90 mile an hour. And then reversing it at full, in reverse on the rev limiter. I'll put it like this. If we got a notification that he'd been locked up on a 20-year sentence by James Pickles for hire car infringements, it wouldn't surprise us.
It wouldn't be surprised at all. Incredible. Oh, man. What a way to finish it. Let's do this again, Brent. 'Cause
Dave,
that
you know,
was fantastic.
Bring the beer next time.
I'll bring the beer next time. We've got the BSB chat to talk about. That was brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It just incredible. We've got so much more to talk about. Let's do it again in the new year. But ladies and gentlemen, massive thank you to Stauff as well, once again, before we finish, for letting us use their recording studio. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Brent Gladwin.
See you soon.
I can't thank Brent enough for his time, and congratulations to him for holding it together on some of those stories. He did such a great job. More than I did on some of the funny ones anyway. A massive thank you to Brent, and we will be back with him as soon as we can to get part 2 and cover the 10 years that we missed out of his BSB career. There's still plenty more to go at, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Next week, it's the first in a series of 3 with the mechanics. First up, Matt Lloyd, Trackhouse Racing MotoGP man, with stories from BSB, the TT, World Superbikes and MotoGP, including Neil Hodgson's burnt feet and a naked Keo on a pool table. All of those to come next week. Thank you so very much for watching, and please do look after yourself. Bye-bye.